In every Hollywood era, there's no shortage of headline-making romances. From Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall's legendary passion to the birth of Brangelina on the set of an action flick, these are the most scandalous love affairs in entertainment history. 1988's Dangerous Liaisons may have been the film that forever typecast John Malkovich as a conniving villain, and during production there were some real-life parallels going on behind the scenes. While Malkovich's character was trying to seduce Michelle Pfeiffer's character, the two actors began an affair that would cause the end of Malkovich's marriage to Glenn Headley. After their split, Headley apparently called Malkovich, quote, the root of all evil. Although Malkovich and Pfeiffer's affair ended shortly after it started, it was a miracle it even began, according to Malkovich. As he later told Rolling Stone, "It's hard to believe Michelle Pfeiffer ever said hello to me. Not that she's not memorable, God knows, but I sort of blocked it out. What I'm trying to say is when I think of the other person, I don't think of me as involved with them. They're uncorrupted by me, as if they were never troubled by my existence."
It's beyond my control.
After Billy Bob Thornton won a Golden Globe in 2017 for his work on Goliath, Twitter went wild commenting on what appeared to be an awkward moment between him and Laura Dern. It might have been nothing more than one actor walking behind another, but the history between these two is hard to ignore, as they were an item between 1997 and 1999. At the time, Thornton was quoted by Men's Journal as saying, "I'm now happily involved with someone who's my best friend." But by the end of the year, they were no longer together. So what happened? Apparently, Angelina Jolie happened. Thornton and Jolie worked together on 1999's Pushing Tin, and at some point along the way, that sparked up a relationship. They married the following year. For Dern, it may have been a bit too sudden to be a coincidence. Speaking to Talk Magazine, she said, "I left our home to work on a movie, and while I was away, my boyfriend got married, and I've never heard from him again. It's like a sudden death. For no one has there been any closure or clarity." When the tabloids spotted Meg Ryan and Russell Crowe holding hands during the filming of Proof of Life, it created an enormous scandal. Besides the fact that both actors were huge stars, Ryan was still married to Dennis Quaid at the time. Before the film was released, Ryan and Crowe tried to avoid prying eyes, but the rumor mill forged on. They ultimately confirmed their relationship by appearing in public together in July of 2000. But Ryan insists that her failed marriage to Quaid wasn't because of Crowe or the scandal, as she told W Magazine, that the union had dissolved before the press caught on. But that didn't stop people from talking. There were questions about Ryan's sweetheart public image and if it would wear off because of this affair. Even she had to question her status in the public eye. At the time, she confessed to W Magazine, "I found myself in a hotel lobby in London a few months ago thinking, all of a sudden, so this is what it feels like to be the Scarlet Woman." Feeling incapable of beginning another long-term relationship, Ryan ended things with Crowe not long after. Billy Crudup and Mary Louise Parker were together for 7 years after they met while performing on Broadway, but in 2003, when Parker was 7 months pregnant, they split. The next thing anyone knew, Crudup was with Claire Danes. Crudup and Danes had just finished filming Stage Beauty, a film about actors who have an affair. The tabloids had a field day with the scandal. Danes, who was just 24 at the time, was particularly unprepared for the drama, which she spoke about years later on an episode of The Howard Stern Show.
That was really hard. I didn't know how to not do that.
Right.
I just was in love with him and needed to explore that and was 24. And heaven have mercy on me.
Good girl. Keep going.
The alleged escapades of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith dwarfed most celebrity gossip of the past 50 years. Jolie was a veteran of a similar scandal with Billy Bob Thornton, while Pitt was married to Jennifer Aniston at the time. The setting was ripe for controversy. While Jolie insists that no physical affair took place before Pitt's split from Aniston, an emotional connection was formed on set. As Jolie explained to Vogue, "Because of the film, we ended up being brought together to do all these crazy things, and I think we found this strange friendship and partnership that kind of just suddenly happened. I think a few months in, I realized, God, I can't wait to get to work." When filming wrapped in 2004, they left the set as, quote, very, very good friends, according to Jolie. The following year, Pitt separated from Aniston and was then officially with Jolie, and thus began the adventures of Brangelina.
So it speaks, but does it dance?
In 2009, LeAnn Rimes and Eddie Cibrian were filming the Lifetime movie Northern Lights when news broke out of an alleged affair between the two after they were spotted together at a restaurant. At the time, Rimes was married to backup dancer Dean Charamet, and Cibrian was married to model Brandi Glanville. The bond that Rimes and Cibrian formed during filming carried on after the cameras stopped rolling. Eventually, they both divorced their spouses and got married to each other in 2011. Rimes later got emotional discussing the affair during an interview with Juliana Rancic. She insisted that nothing happened between her and Cibrian outside of love scenes for the film, but she still expressed some regret with how the whole thing played out.
I've never felt the hurt so deep, and I've never felt the love so deep.
Right. All at the same time.
Yeah, I never knew that could happen.
In 1972, shortly after they were cast in The Getaway, Steve McQueen and Ally McGraw started a relationship that wore out the ink on tabloids across the country. McGraw was a rising star who had recently married producer Robert Evans. McQueen was Hollywood's iconic bad boy. McGraw later told Vanity Fair, "It was very, very passionate and dramatic and hurtful and ecstatic. It was pretty much a wipeout for both of us, but I think it's safe to say it would have been impossible not to fall in love with Steve." After the film, McGraw divorced Evans and married McQueen, and even paused her career for him. It wasn't until after their 1977 divorce that she returned to the big screen with the 1978 film Convoy.
Steve McQueen is dead for 30-some-odd years. I always thought he'd leave me. I mean, it was this absurd... I don't know what I thought, except that I wasn't real.
The casting of Elizabeth Taylor in the title role of 1963's Cleopatra was not without some controversy. She hadn't yet lived down her reputation as a homewrecker from an earlier affair with Eddie Fisher, and some people at 20th Century Fox were unsure if the risk was worth the price. They ultimately moved forward with casting Taylor, but it turned out that their fears were grounded. Even with Fisher on location in Rome, Taylor and her co-star Richard Burton, who played Mark Antony, started one of the most talked-about affairs of the century during production. While taking a break from filming in 1962, Burton and Taylor were snapped lounging together aboard a yacht. The published photos sent the public and the paparazzi into a frenzy for more. The scandal was inescapable. Members of the press followed them at every turn, even posing as extras to get inside information. The Vatican even publicly condemned the relationship. By 1963, their relationship was public and the film was finally released. Early in 1964, mere days after she divorced Fisher, Taylor and Burton were married. They divorced in 1974, remarried in 1975, and then divorced again in 1976. Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall are now remembered as one of Hollywood's greatest couples, but their romance wasn't without its victims. For one, Bogart was married to actress Mayo Mathieu when he started shooting To Have and Have Not with Bacall in 1944. As Bacall recalled to TCM, she was so nervous during her first scene with Bogart that she couldn't stop shaking. It was his patience with her that initially caught her attention. Their off-screen chemistry soon took on a new life that led to changes in the script that leveraged their blossoming relationship. Despite his feelings for Bacall, Bogart apparently decided to try and work things out in his struggling marriage. Mathieu was battling alcoholism and made a failed attempt at rehab before she and Bogart finally split. During this time, the private relationship between two of Hollywood's biggest stars made for some incredible gossip. In 1945, Bogart and Mathieu divorced, and then Bogart and Bacall married.
You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
The love affair between Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini began with a simple letter in which Bergman wrote, "Dear Mr. Rossellini, I saw your films Open City and Paisan and enjoyed them very much. If you need a Swedish actress who speaks English very well, who has not forgotten her German, who is not very understandable in French, and who in Italian knows only ti amo, I am ready to come and make a film with you." From this came the suggestion to make the film Stromboli. As Bergman and Rossellini pitched the movie to producers and secured financing, their relationship grew. They traveled together throughout Italy prior to shooting, much to the dismay of Bergman's husband, Petter Lindstrom. According to the Bergman biography, as time goes by, Rossellini seemed open to creating a scandal while shooting the film. He was happy to be photographed holding hands with the beautiful actress, and he even gave the press inside knowledge of her broken marriage. Before Stromboli was finished shooting, Bergman was pregnant with Rossellini's child, and the truth of the affair was all over the American airwaves. She was ostracized from the American film industry and wouldn't return to favor for more than 7 years. Frank Sinatra was no stranger to affairs. He was even arrested on charges of adultery in 1938. The famous crooner married his first wife Nancy in 1939, and they had 3 children together. But in 1948, he and actress Ava Gardner started what would become a legendary affair. It wasn't until 1950 that the world found out about them, as Sinatra was labeled a cheater and Gardner a homewrecker. While Gardner was vilified for her role in the affair and considered a gold digger, the scandal hurt Sinatra's career most. According to the book Sinatra Behind the Legend, his show started suffering, he lost his recording contract, and his voice was failing. In 1951, after Nancy gave him the divorce he sought, he married Gardner. Their union, however, would be marked with great challenges. They battled publicly, and Gardner had 2 abortions. Their relationship ended in 1953, with the divorce finalized in 1957.
When you're on TV almost every day, you're bound to have occasional and very televised problems. Numerous morning TV personalities have become entangled in some pretty big messes over the years.
You don't have any product?
Well, please don't ever touch me again.
From backstabbing memos to on-air fights, here are some major scandals that have plagued morning TV. Billy Bush's lewd comments. Today Show anchor Billy Bush was suspended in October 2016 following the leak of a video from behind the scenes of a 2005 episode of Access Hollywood. The video, which since became infamous for its impact on the 2016 presidential election, had Bush and Republican candidate Donald Trump describing making lewd and unwanted sexual advances towards women, including host Nancy O'Dell.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. I don't even wait. And when you're stars, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
They also discussed the appearances of Days of Our Lives actress Ariane Zucker, who gave Bush and Trump a tour of the soap opera set. In the video, Bush encourages Zucker to hug Trump and continues to make rude remarks about the actress. When the video first leaked, Bush released a statement to Page 6 saying, "Obviously, I'm embarrassed and ashamed. It's no excuse, but this happened 11 years ago. I was younger, less mature, and acted foolishly in playing along. I'm very sorry." In a memo to Today staffers sent 2 days after the video leaked, executive producer Noah Oppenheim wrote, "I know we've all been deeply troubled by the revelations of the past 48 hours. Let me be clear, there is simply no excuse for Billy's language and behavior on that tape. NBC has decided to suspend Billy pending further review of this matter." Bush was absent from the show in the following days.
As you can see, Billy Bush not joining us today, as you're probably aware, part of that 2005 Access Hollywood taping with Donald Trump that's been in the news all weekend.
NBC, which owns Access Hollywood, has suspended Billy for his role in that conversation pending further review.
Meanwhile, one insider reportedly told CNN, quote, "He will never be on the show again," end quote. Kelly Ripa versus Michael Strahan. In April 2016, Michael Strahan shocked audiences when he announced he was leaving Live with Kelly and Michael to join Good Morning America in the fall. Apparently, no one was more shocked than Strahan's co-host Kelly Ripa, who reportedly received the news just as the press release was being sent out. Amid a sea of rumors about the show's future, Ripa skipped work the next day, leaving Strahan to address his high-profile exit without her. TMZ followed up with a report that Ripa's return to Live came only after tough talks with Disney. Ripa addressed the scandal on her first day back.
So what transpired, though, over the course of a few days has been extraordinary in the sense that it started a much greater conversation about communication and consideration, and most importantly, respect.
As more and more rumors surfaced about co-host's tense relationship, Disney announced that Strahan would leave the show 4 months earlier than planned. Ripa seemingly confirmed things were not cool between her and Strahan in a number of on-air jabs directed at Strahan.
I want to thank you for the contract negotiations with me.
Kelly Ripa versus Regis Philbin. Ripa's anger over Strahan's exit may have been partially fueled by a case of deja vu. Ripa's former co-host Regis Philbin pulled a similar stunt by telling Ripa he was retiring just 15 minutes before he made the announcement on air. At the time, Ripa was reportedly blindsided by the news, the same word used to describe her reaction to Strahan's departure. However, in that case, sources said that Ripa wasn't actually angry. Josh Elliott's misfire. When Good Morning America overtook Today in 2012, host Josh Elliott became a rising star for about 2 years. He was out at ABC after what The Hollywood Reporter described as a messy exit. According to the report, Elliott was demanding $10 million annually to stay. ABC offered $5 million. Meanwhile, Page Six also reported that Elliott immediately wanted George Stephanopoulos' job as co-lead anchor, none of which happened. Amid the drama, it was announced he'd be leaving ABC to join NBC Sports, where again he lasted less than 2 years. Elliott and NBC mutually agreed to part ways after the network couldn't find a proper role for him, and according to sources, he was being paid $5 million a year to do basically nothing. In March 2016, Page Six reported that Elliott would become lead anchor for CBSN, CBS News' digital streaming news network, which is either a huge promotion or a huge demotion, depending on which side of the technology debate you're on. Rosie O'Donnell versus Elizabeth Hasselbeck. Of the many on-air and behind-the-scenes controversies on The View, none will ever top the epic on-air fight between Rosie O'Donnell and Elizabeth Hasselbeck on May 23, 2007. Their debate over U.S. military involvement in Iraq grew so heated that O'Donnell quit the show after that episode aired. Less than a year later, O'Donnell told People magazine that she and Hasselbeck had buried the hatchet. But in 2014, Hasselbeck brought it all back up via an Instagram post, noting that she still considered O'Donnell's stance indefensible. Her worst offense? Using the word momversation. Bryant Gumbel versus Willard Scott. In 1989, a scathing memo written by Today's Show anchor Bryant Gumbel criticizing much of the show's on-air talent leaked to the press, putting the program at the center of a media firestorm. The press paid special attention to Gumbel's comments about weatherman Willard Scott, which said, quote, "Scott is holding the show hostage to his assortment of whims, wishes, birthdays, and bad taste. He can't leave this job and couldn't get a better one," end quote. The memo reportedly caused a rift between Gumbel and Scott behind the scenes, which Scott confirmed in an interview with the Philadelphia Inquirer, saying, quote, "It was horrible. I didn't go out for a couple of months. I didn't go to church. I didn't mingle in crowds. I got sick of hearing, 'How's Bryant?' It really was driving me crazy. I'm sure it drove him crazy too. Unfortunately, he was the one who started it," end quote. Scott semi-retired in 1996. He continued to announce birthday wishes on Today until his official retirement in 2015. Gumbel, meanwhile, had left in 1997. Jane Pauley versus Deborah Norville. Months after Gumbel's memo leaked, the Today Show battled more bad press amid rumors that its anchor of 13 years, Jane Pauley, was about to be ousted by the younger, blonder Deborah Norville. According to People, the rumor started in September of 1989 after Norville replaced news anchor John Palmer and began sitting at the main desk alongside Pauley and Gumbel. Months later, Pauley confirmed she was, in fact, leaving after 13 years on the show. Her final morning on Today was a tearful broadcast on December 23, 1989. Plagued by tabloid scandals and unpopularity over Pauley's ousting, Norville left Today in April 1991 after just 14 months on the job. She was replaced by Katie Couric. Incidentally, both Pauley and Norville went on to bigger and even more lucrative careers. Pauley became the host of Dateline and newest host of CBS Sunday Morning, and Norville was the host of Inside Edition.
Hollywood is notoriously unforgiving. Luckily for celebs, though, actual fans aren't nearly as fickle. These once disgraced stars had some pretty big scandals, but for some reason or another, everyone pretends they never happened. America's sweetheart, Reese Witherspoon, doesn't appear to have a disorderly bone in her body, yet here we are.
It's one of those nights, we went out to dinner in Atlanta and we had one too many glasses of wine. We thought we were fine to drive and we absolutely were not.
Witherspoon was arrested for disorderly conduct in 2013 after her husband, Jim Toth, was pulled over and arrested for driving under the influence. To make matters worse, our fair lady of Sweet Home Alabama pulled the "Do you know who I am" card, a move favored by child stars who've gone off the rails. Witherspoon was arrested on a Friday, and by that Sunday night, the Wild star had released a heartfelt apology, stating, "I clearly had one drink too many, and I am deeply embarrassed about the things I said. It was definitely a scary situation, and I was frightened for my husband, but that is no excuse. I am very sorry for my behavior." Over the last couple of years, we've managed to completely wipe Matthew McConaughey's naked bongo incident from our brains. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean it never happened.
All right.
In 1999, everybody's favorite Lincoln spokesperson was busted on suspicion of marijuana possession. According to the infamous police report, he was dancing around naked, playing bongo drums while another man cheered. The charges were dropped, and McConaughey nonchalantly described his visit to the Slammer as somewhere he wouldn't want to rent a place, but it was a nice stay for a night. Chris Brown is known for some pretty abhorrent things, so amidst all the headlines, it's easy to forget that he also had a day-long standoff with a SWAT team in 2016.
Police just arrested singer Chris Brown after a day-long standoff at his Tarzana mansion.
The incident began when Brown allegedly pulled a gun on a woman. She attempted to flee, so Brown reportedly followed her in a Jeep, but she escaped into a neighbor's yard and hid under an SUV. The neighbor called the police. Brown reportedly refused to let law enforcement into his home without a warrant, so police set up a camp outside as Brown embarked on a bizarre police standoff/Instagram rant as helicopters circled overhead.
Come on, my what the else do y'all want from me, bro?
Brown was eventually arrested for felony assault with a deadly weapon. All that, and yet fans seem to wear blinders when it comes to Brown's behavior. Case in point, in May 2018, Spotify removed numerous abusers from its official playlists, yet Brown's catalog remained inexplicably untouched. In the Me Too era, it's kind of shocking that everyone seems to ignore the 1989 sex tape Rob Lowe shot with an underage girl. According to Yahoo, the St. Elmo's Fire alum was in his early 20s when he picked up two women at a nightclub. The girls agreed to be videotaped, and Lowe filmed their enthusiastic romp. The video was circulated around the world, which wouldn't necessarily have been a huge deal had one of the participants not been 16 years old. Lowe believed the girl was at least 21 because he picked her up at a club where he'd been carded.
The problem is people don't know the facts of the case. They don't know it's a bar where I get carded going in. So why wouldn't I assume everybody else is 21?
Unfortunately, after the video surfaced, he was slapped with a lawsuit by the teen's mother, and his scandal was plastered across tabloids. He received a mere 20 hours of community service for taping the encounter with a partner under 18, and his career barely suffered. The following year, Lorne Michaels let Lowe host SNL, and everything was more or less forgotten. Before he became Tim the Toolman Taylor or Santa Claus, Tim Allen served a 28-month sentence for trafficking cocaine, and it could have been a whole lot worse. According to Defamer, Allen was nabbed by undercover state troopers at the Kalamazoo airport after selling 1.5 pounds of cocaine for a whopping $42,000. He ended up taking a plea deal in exchange for information. As a result, the most serious charges were dropped, saving him from a mandatory life sentence. After the experience, Allen swiftly turned his life around. He went from jail time to tool time, and today most of us either don't know about his sordid past or pretend the whole thing never happened. What a tool, man. Bruno Mars has hit every possible career milestone a musician could hit. As much as we'd like to forget, there was once a time when the young pop star almost uptown funked up his career with a felony cocaine charge. In 2010, Mars was arrested in the Las Vegas Hard Rock Hotel after he was nabbed with 2.6 grams of what E! News describes as a white powdery substance believed to be cocaine. Shocker, it was, in fact, cocaine. E! News reports that he was charged with felony cocaine possession, but that was dismissed after he performed 200 hours of community service, paid a $2,000 fine, and underwent 8 hours of drug counseling.
Celebrity scandals can spread faster than the common cold, and reality TV offers no shortage of material. Even though viewers have come to expect the unexpected on their favorite hit shows, the following scandals still caught audiences off guard. From legal woes to shocking outbursts to love gone horribly wrong, here are the reality TV scandals we didn't see coming. 19 Kids and Counting. The scandal that rocked the Duggar family, stars of 19 Kids and Counting, was especially shocking considering the wholesome values they project on the show. In 2006, In Touch published a police report detailing allegations from 2002 when a then 14-year-old Josh Duggar reportedly molested 4 of his sisters and one family friend. A deeper investigation quickly revealed what looked like cover-up attempts by parents Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar. Within months, 19 Kids and Counting was canceled, but that wasn't the last of Josh's troubles. He was also exposed in the Ashley Madison hack, prompting him to publicly admit to years of lying and infidelity. But by December 2015, the eldest children of the Duggar clan had returned to TLC with a new series called Counting On. In one way or another, nearly every member of the family has returned for that series, except Josh. Duck Dynasty. After Phil Robertson gave a now infamous GQ interview disparaging homosexuality, a social media firestorm descended on the popular duck call makers. The ensuing debate about free speech, hate speech, and religious freedom threatened Duck Dynasty. prompting A&E to briefly suspend Phil from the show. In its off-season, when it wasn't even filming, uproar from supporters caused Phil's eventual return.
My idea of happiness is killing things.
Duck Dynasty is hands down A&E's most popular show of all time, not to mention a merchandising juggernaut, so the network decided to white-knuckle it through the backlash rather than end the series and sacrifice a ton of cash. Flip or flop. The marriage of Flip or Flop stars Tarek and Christina El Moussa was already over when this bizarre incident hit the tabloids. After a fight, Tarek left the house and fled to a nearby trail behind the house, but not before grabbing a handgun from a safe and stuffing it into a backpack. Why?
There's mountain lions and bobcats and rattlesnakes and like big wildlife back there, and I went up for a hike to scout some trails. It wasn't even a big deal.
From there, the tabloid floodgates burst, and it was open season on the El Moussa's marriage. Amazingly, the show is still recording new episodes, and both Tarek and Christina are still starring together, despite probably dealing with more stress than a cracked home foundation could have ever given them. Fixer Upper. It's tough to imagine the charmingly wholesome stars of Fixer Upper, Chip and Joanna Gaines, being tangled up in anything scandalous. But in 2017, Chip's two former business partners, with whom he founded Magnolia Realty, sued him for fraud. According to the Waco Tribune-Herald, Chip allegedly bought them out of the business for $2,500 each, just 2 days before the announcement that HGTV had picked up the show. The kicker was, Chip had been in negotiations with the network for over a year. Thanks to the show's explosive popularity, Magnolia Realty ballooned into a massive company. Chip's former partners are now seeking $1 million in damages.
Did I embarrass a lot of people?
No, it was just gross. It took you on a whole nother level.
Meanwhile, fans of the popular show are currently mourning the Gaines' decision to end the series, but we're sure they'll have the popcorn ready as the unexpected drama surrounding Magnolia Realty continues to unfold. Sister Wives. This reality show is about polygamous Cody Brown and his 4 wives, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robin. Obviously, their family dynamic is extremely complicated, hence the structuring of an entire television show around it. But one kink in the chain that no one expected was for one of the wives, Mary, to get wrapped up in a full-blown catfishing scandal. In Mary's case, it was especially bad. Not only was her catfish Sam attempting to exploit her emotionally, but he also turned out to be a notorious online scammer named Jackie Overton, a woman who apparently did this kind of thing a lot.
This catfish was planting things in my head and just telling me how horrible my family was, and specifically how horrible Cody was.
It's unclear what Overton ultimately achieved from her deception, other than providing an insanely juicy storyline for the show, which the producers drew out for an entire season, of course. Married at First Sight. If you've never seen it, this series does exactly what the title says. 2 strangers get married the day they meet. There clearly weren't high expectations for any of those marriages.
Isn't that symbolic that they're wearing black?
Still, nobody anticipated what happened with Season 2 newlyweds Jessica Castro and Ryan Danino. Castro and Danino married in December 2014 and made it all the way to February 2015 before throwing in the towel. Why did they decide to end it? According to Castro, Danino threatened her and her entire family. Danino didn't outright deny anything, but he did say in an Instagram post that he was disgusted by the accusations. Later, In Touch reported that a paralegal representing Danino in the divorce claimed he threw a tantrum during a meeting and became even more violent to the point where others came in to check on the paralegal's safety. Danino later apologized for what he said to Castro at the reunion show.
First, I want to apologize to you for the way that I've spoke to you, and I am sorry. No matter what, it's unacceptable. And as a man, I need to take ownership of that, and for that, I'm sorry.
That's nice and all, but it usually takes more than an apology to make up for threatening to end the lives of your in-laws. Big Brother. Being held captive in an environment which is being broadcast to the world is literally the entire concept of Big Brother. You'd think contestants would be pretty careful to not make racially insensitive comments that the whole world will see. But that's exactly what happened during the 15th season of the American version of the show. Contestant Aaron Grease repeatedly made racist and homophobic remarks and was eventually evicted from the house.
Does she not know we're on TV and you shouldn't say stuff like that?
During her post-show interview, she tried to explain away her comments.
I have said some things that have been taken completely out of context and wrong, and I do not mean to ever come off racist.
As to why the series made the decision to air these particular comments, we'll just go ahead and point to Business Insider's observation that before the controversial episodes aired, the show was in a ratings slump. Afterward, the show enjoyed its highest ratings ever. Dance Moms. In 2017, Dance Mom star Abby Lee Miller went to prison for fraud related to a bankruptcy filing. According to ABC News, Miller was allegedly hiding about $775,000 in income. and bringing $120,000 worth of Australian currency into the country without reporting it. Fortunately for Miller, she already knows exactly how she's going to spend her time behind bars.
I'm just going to pretend I'm shooting a movie and we're on set and I'm there for 10 months and that's the way it's going to be.
She also said she's going to spend her time in the clink reading, writing, and learning Spanish. That just sounds lovely. Bachelor in Paradise. What would a list of reality TV scandals be without The Bachelor? In the beach-themed spin-off Bachelor in Paradise, a scandal broke out before the show even aired its first episode. After production was halted in order to pursue an investigation into alleged misconduct, explosive allegations began to fly over what occurred between the two cast members in question, Corinne Olympios and Mario Jackson. Normally, cast hookups on a show like Bachelor in Paradise are about as routine as an open bar. But in this case, there was a claim of a possible sexual assault. When the dust settled, the investigation indicated that there was no misconduct or evidence that the safety of any cast member was ever in jeopardy. The show finally addressed the scandal in the most Bachelor way possible. Weeks of promotion, 2 dramatic sit-downs with both Olympios and Jackson, and a full cast Q&A. While the producers of Bachelor in Paradise may not have anticipated this scandal, they sure knew how to milk it for everything it was worth. The Bachelor. It's no secret that The Bachelor has a rich history of controversies, most of which involve drinking shenanigans, infidelity, or castmate hookup speculation. But how about when a cast member is accused of hooking up with the show's staff? Unlike the Bachelor in Paradise scandal, there was apparently no question about what happened this time, at least not according to host Chris Harrison, who went in hard on the alleged rule breaker Rosalind Papa.
Rosalind, you entered into an inappropriate relationship with one of our staffers.
Harrison spelled out the details of the forbidden tryst to People, saying, "She had a physical relationship with a producer on our show. You cannot do that. There is no gray area." Other girls on the show saw it. The producer confessed more than once and to more than one person. I cannot make it any clearer. Still, Papa denied that the relationship had ever happened.
On my child's life, that never happened.
She also told Us Weekly, "There was no making out. If I had known that I was going to get accused of it, maybe I would have gone for it." Citing her confidentiality agreement, Papa refused to elaborate on what actually occurred between her and the producer, leaving the whole thing open to speculation. Dog the Bounty Hunter. Another victim of his own uncensored tongue is Dwayne Dog Chapman, the mulleted, sleeveless wonder who tracks down fugitives. Dog took some serious heat after a recorded phone call hit the internet, revealing his repeated use of derogatory racial terms. After a brief suspension and making the news talk circuit, Dog was back on A&E bagging bail jumpers. Because if there's one thing Americans hate more than racism, it's having to find a new favorite show.
I'll yell at you all you want. What the you gonna do? Nothing.
Paula Deen. Apparently, watching Paula Deen make sugar-coated, deep-fried butterballs wasn't enough for America to forgive Deen for her controversial testimony during a racial and sexual discrimination lawsuit.
Now, according to the deposition, Deen was asked, "Have you ever used the N-word yourself?" To which she replies, "Yes, of course."
Even though she won the suit, the heat from the controversy was too much for the Food Network, who kicked her out of the kitchen. That sweet Southern grandma persona couldn't keep her business partners from publicly cutting their ties with Deen either. Forbes reported that Smithfield Foods, Target, and Walmart all dumped Deen, along with the endorsement deals that were earning her $17 million at the height of her popularity.
White friends.
But she didn't go quietly. According to Eater, Deen acquired the rights to all of her old Food Network shows and turned them into a subscription-based online network. On top of that, she launched a clothing line, competed on Dancing with the Stars, and attempted to return to cooking on TV with a new syndicated series called Positively Paula. There's just no stopping her.
I have gone nuts. We got to talk about my nuts. Oh my God, I got the best. My Uncle Bubba, well, he's not my uncle, he's my brother.
America's Next Top Model is a clear frontrunner for the longest-standing reality TV show. But while it served us the tea and some incredibly talented faces, the show has also given way to a tragically dark side. These are the biggest scandals to ever plague ANTM. In Cycle 4, Tiffany Richardson unwittingly became the star of one of the most iconic moments in all of reality TV history. It became the Tyra Banks freakout that launched 1,000 memes. And even years later, it's almost as if we can still hear Banks screaming,
I was rooting for you! We were all rooting for you! How dare you!
So how did it all go down? Richardson was sent home alongside fellow contestant Rebecca Epley in an unusual elimination where 2 models were cut instead of just one. While Epley burst into tears, Richardson did her best to remain unbothered. That's when Banks accused Richardson of not taking the competition seriously, and Richardson claimed she was, quote, sick of crying and being disappointed. After that, Banks unleashed her fury.
I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this!
At the time, the moment was shocking. Today, it's quite possibly one of the greatest memes of all time. It's also something that would probably never happen again. Banks later told BuzzFeed she might have acted differently these days, claiming, "Oh my god, totally, I wouldn't have done it. Actually, maybe I wouldn't have aired it." Janice Dickinson and Tyra Banks' long-standing feud is perhaps one of the few ANTM scandals that seemed to be made of Teflon. Having survived an entire decade, the drama first kicked off in 2005 when Dickinson left the show's judging panel to, quote, pursue other opportunities, according to Entertainment Weekly. She was replaced by 60s icon Twiggy, and fans scrambled to figure out if Dickinson was fired or whether she quit.
Well, Tyra hired me to be like a female Simon Cowell.
But Dickinson left us some not-so-subtle breadcrumbs along the way. In 2009, she told MTV News that she was fired. In 2011, she claimed she quit because the show was, quote, rigged, according to Us Weekly. A year later, Dickinson told a Fox News outlet that Banks had gone on a so-called firing rampage, and at one point, she even called Banks fat.
Cover girl.
After a solid decade, fans finally got a resolution. On an episode of Oprah, Where Are They Now?, Dickinson admitted point-blank that when everything went down, she had personally been struggling. She said in an apology, "I've said some pretty bad things about her in the past because I had been fired, and I was very hurt that I had been fired, and so I acted out. But that's not when I was acting in a sober-like fashion. It looks like we can finally put this beef to rest." In 2015, fans were left shocked and heartbroken when former contestant Mirjana Puhar was killed in a drug-related triple homicide at her boyfriend's Charlotte, North Carolina house. She was just 19. According to TMZ, a friend of the couple received a call about gunshots and decided to check in on the pair at home. When officers arrived, they reportedly discovered a third victim, the couple's roommate. According to reports from TMZ and WBTV, 2 suspects were arrested and later sentenced to multiple life sentences.
I definitely consider myself a fighter, and I think this is like a door opening to get out of everything I have been through.
Mirjana, who was on the 21st cycle of the show, might have had a troubled past, but lived her life with a tenacious spirit. In an interview with the Charlotte Observer, she spoke about fleeing from war-torn Serbia with her family, skipping school, getting into fights, and working at McDonald's before landing a spot on America's Next Top Model. After appearing on Cycle 8, contestant Renee Alway found herself serving looks in prison. According to TMZ, the model was arrested in 2013 for a sprawling list of charges following a 6-hour armed police standoff that involved the SWAT team. The tab also reported that the reality TV star was, quote, packing heat. Alway was later booked for suspicion of burglary, fraud, possession of narcotics, forged bills, and committing a felony while on bail. The latter charge was related to an arrest a month prior. Cue her headline-making mugshot and courthouse shaved head, which was the ANTM makeover no one expected.
Drugs have been a part of my life since I was young. I can't even remember what was happening then. That's how bad it was.
According to TMZ, Alway was ultimately sentenced to 12 years in prison, serving a little more than 5 of them. But she got into trouble again when she was arrested for domestic violence a little over a year after her early release in 2019. ANTM's All-Star season in 2011 put Cycle 14 contestant Angelique Preston back in the running to become America's Next Top Model. And she actually won. Unfortunately, the title was perhaps the most short-lived in ANTM history. According to the Daily Mail, the model was stripped of her crown in the final hour after producers discovered Preston had once worked as an escort. In a scathing 2015 Daily Mail interview, the model claimed that she only ever became an escort because she struggled to get bookings after her initial debut on the show. She said, "I was in a very, very tough spot. I did some things for money that I'm not proud of. I was escorting. I had to survive. I had no money. I had no income. It was a stupid decision that lasted a month, and I got out, and it came back to bite me."
Are you ready for your best shot in the hairy situation?
Not really.
Not really. Well, it's coming anyway.
According to TMZ, Preston claimed that she had already alerted producers about her past before they cast her in Cycle 17. For that reason, she lobbed a $3 million breach of contract lawsuit at the producers, networks, and studios in 2014. It's unclear exactly what happened, but Redditors suspect it was settled out of court. Cycle 19 marked a huge change for America's Next Top Model, and some might say the show was never quite the same. Prior to filming the then upcoming season in 2012, Tyra Banks gave her longtime co-stars, photographer Nigel Barker, mentor Jay Alexander, and creative director Jay Manuel the axe. The trio had been with the series since its inception, almost a decade prior.
Being a judge on America's Next Top Model and the fondest memory of working on that show, Donna was the paycheck.
According to Page 6, their departures were a, quote, production decision, as the show adopted a social media slant to help bolster sinking ratings. The Atlantic reports that the series lost 1 million viewers between Cycle 17 and 18, but replacing fan favorites with social media stars proved to be even more unpopular. Viewership tanked by Cycle 20. Though the news of the OG crew's departure devastated fans enough to change the channel, it wasn't a shock to those on the inside. In an interview with E! News, Barker admitted, "I'm friends with Tyra and the producers. There had been a discussion that ratings were down and that something like this would happen." Tyra Banks has long stood for body positivity. According to HuffPost, the star renounced the term plus size in favor of, quote, fiercely real, and handed over the title of America's Next Top Model to Whitney Thompson in 2008. And years later, the New York Daily News reported that the supermodel applauded Vogue for banning models under the age of 16 who appear to have eating disorders. But her outspoken stance made it all the more controversial when she seemingly praised a contestant's extreme thinness during Cycle 15. Banks was met with controversy after releasing a trailer that showed Miss J wrapping his hands completely around then 19-year-old Ann Ward's waist as Banks fawned.
There's something about her that I like!
Banks later apologized and explained to People magazine that because of the way the clip was edited, it sounded like I was supporting unhealthy eating habits. I am and will always be committed to promoting healthy body image. According to OK Magazine, Ward was reportedly 6'2" and under 100 pounds at the time she filmed the season. Noting that she simply had a high metabolism, Ward explained to the outlet, "I didn't notice how skinny my waist was. I was like, oh my god, I do have a tiny waist."
We've got really high metabolism, like we can eat all we want and we still don't gain any weight.
Ward was later crowned the winner of Cycle 15. Robin Manning kicked off A&TM's run with the type of shocking drama that turned the program into a reality TV mainstay. And weirdly enough, Manning's scandal had nothing to do with salacious photographs, drug addiction, or anything else that would typically be deemed scandalous enough to get a contestant disqualified. Instead, it was her modesty that landed headlines.
All she did for like 4 hours with these dudes was read the Bible.
Manning was a standout contestant back in Cycle 1, but not so much for her modeling as for her convictions. The star was willing to abide by her morals, even if that meant she'd get the boot. This became an issue in episode 7 when the contestants were asked to do a racy photo shoot. Manning refused, saying, "My grandmother always used to tell me, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So this stand right here I'm taking might make me be eliminated, so my time is up, and I'm okay with it."
My body is sacred, and it's mine. And my religion teaches me that my body is a temple.
Manning was, as she predicted, sent packing, but it set a brand new precedent for the show. Other contestants followed suit over the years, and some refused to pose in the buff across a number of cycles. Since Manning's season, these saucy photo shoots have been an A&TM highlight because of the models who don't strip down.
All of you guys just like whip off your robes, no problem. And I'm like, are you serious?
After top model hopeful Lisa D'Amato burst onto the scene in Cycle 5, fans assumed she went on to find success in the modeling industry. But instead, she was out in the real world grappling with substance abuse.
It's so weird, like I don't even know what to do.
According to Entertainment Tonight, D'Amato entered rehab for alcohol, marijuana, amphetamines, cocaine, and mushrooms. But she didn't just enter any rehab. She appeared alongside Mackenzie Phillips, Dennis Rodman, and Heidi Fleiss on the 3rd season of Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew. Thankfully, the star managed to get clean anyway. She told Paper Magazine in 2011, "I proved the world wrong. I'm not an addict, but I got therapy, which I needed and I'd never had. Society has a very unhealthy relationship with alcohol. I was an LA kid, drinking and going to parties when I was 14. Now I'm stronger and smarter. I want to make a difference." Since then, the star has made a shocking comeback. D'Amato went on to compete in the All-Star Cycle 17 of A&TM and told Reality TV World, "I think I look better than I ever have before in my whole life." According to E! News, she also got married in 2012 and has since welcomed 2 children into her family. JL Strauss was a fan favorite when she appeared on Cycle 8 of the show, and America watched as she grappled with some serious personal drama during her run. The model's friend passed away from an overdose while Strauss was filming, and she had to make the difficult decision whether to leave or to stay. She ended up continuing with the show, dedicating that week's photo to her friend, and ultimately placed 6th in the overall competition. But things didn't fare so well for Strauss following her reality TV run. The model found herself addicted to meth, which turned into a full-fledged scandal when her family staged an intervention in a shocking 2012 episode of Dr. Phil. After a dramatic attempted escape into the studio lot, Dr. Phil finally caught up with JL, asking her, "Are you really convincing yourself that this life that you have doesn't suck? You're doing drugs, you're living in crappy hotels, you're stripping in some sleazeball joint." In an interview with 2Fab, Strauss admitted that she felt exploited by the episode, but noted that her story had, quote, helped so many people. The model went through treatment, and as of 2016, she was 3 years sober. She told the outlet, "I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life." But tragically, it won't be JL's final battle. 6 years after Strauss beat her addiction, she hit headlines yet again. This time, fans were shocked by the news. The star announced via Facebook that she had been diagnosed with advanced breast cancer at the age of 34, revealing that there was no cure. She wrote, "On October 2nd, I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. It has aggressively spread throughout my body and is incurable. With treatment, it may prolong my life longer than the few months doctors said I could make it. I don't want to die. I need another one of those miracles that I got back in 2013. According to Metro, Strauss passed away in hospice 2 months after her diagnosis. Tyra Banks shared a touching tribute to her on Twitter, writing, "Top model has lost a beautiful soul. We will all remember JL and her fun-loving spirit and beautiful soul."
Food Network stars may seem innocuous, warm, and inviting, but some of them have gotten themselves into trouble and their dirty laundry has gone public. From uttering racial slurs to serious abuse, these are Food Network's biggest scandals ever. Paula Deen was among Food Network's most magnetic personalities. On her show Paula's Home Cooking, the Georgia-based cook and caterer joked around as she made sugar-filled and butter-loaded dishes in a traditional Southern style. She also operated some food businesses, including the Savannah restaurant Uncle Bubba's Seafood and Oyster House. But then, in 2013, Deen's world started to unravel. She was sued by former Uncle Bubba's manager Lisa Jackson, who alleged that Deen fostered a work environment full of inappropriate racial comments. When asked if she'd ever used the N-word, Deen admitted that she had, although not recently. She also owned up to planning a wedding for which she floated the idea of hiring black men to dress like slaves so as to reportedly add some old-time Southern authenticity. Shortly after the deposition went public, Food Network released a statement saying, "The Food Network does not tolerate any form of discrimination and is a strong proponent of diversity and inclusion. We will continue to monitor the situation." Deen canceled an appearance on NBC's Today and then released a YouTube video to apologize and beg for forgiveness. That same day, Food Network announced that it would not renew its contract with Deen, essentially firing her after 11 years together.
And I can truthfully say in my life, I have never with any intention hurt anybody on purpose, and I never would.
As the host of Barefoot Contessa, Ina Garten has been one of Food Network's most high-profile personalities for years, as she's cooked expensive dinner party food for high-profile guests and humble fare for her devoted husband, Jeffrey. Among Garten's many fans is a boy named Enzo Pereda. At the age of 3, Pereda was diagnosed with leukemia, and while homebound in bed, he started watching Barefoot Contessa. When the Make-A-Wish Foundation reached out to him, he had just one request: to meet Garten and make a meal with her. Garten was initially non-committal, citing too many obligations over a book tour. Undeterred, Pereda asked again in early 2011, but Garten expressly said no that time. After Pereda's mother blogged about Garten's refusal, the story went viral, prompting Garten to walk back her rejection and invite Pereda to the Barefoot Contessa set. As her team explained in a statement, Ina receives approximately 100 requests a month to support charitable causes. Sadly, it's of course not possible to do them all. But this time, it was somebody else's turn to say no. As Enzo's father Adrian told ABC News, "We're not going to do it. I don't want my son to go through any other stress. We just want to go on with our life." After her blog about life on a cattle ranch became extremely popular, Food Network gave Ree Drummond her own show, The Pioneer Woman. The series wears its old-fashioned American vibe on its sleeve, but unfortunately that can come at the expense of other cultures. In a Season 2 episode called The Big Game, Drummond made football snacks for her husband and two of his college buddies, including a tray of Asian hot wings. The men in her home appeared confused, with one of them asking, "Where's the real ones?" and another saying, "I don't trust them." Drummond eventually responded, "I'm just kidding, guys. I wouldn't do that to you." And then she presented a tray of familiar buffalo wings. Following this episode, a website about Asian American issues called Thick Dumpling Skin tweeted a clip of the scene and called out Food Network for anti-Asian sentiment. They expanded their thoughts on their site by asking, "Why must we watch non-Asian cooks who can't pronounce sriracha and don't have a chopstick drawer show us how to make our own dishes? And how come when they do, we have to watch as their entire family mocks it?" Despite the outcry, Food Network did not heed the calls to remove the episode from circulation. Debuting in 2007, Dinner Impossible is one of Food Network's most audacious shows, tasking high-energy chef Robert Irvine with incredibly difficult assignments. These include executing a meal for 200 wedding guests in 10 hours, or cooking for food historians using only ingredients and tools available in 18th century Virginia. But Irvine was well prepared for these challenges thanks to his extensive life experience, like owning a Scottish castle, cooking for 4 American presidents, and baking Princess Diana's wedding cake, all of which he claimed culminated in a friendship with Prince Charles and a knighthood. But then, in 2008, the Tampa Bay Times reported that Irvine had lied about most of those impressive feats. In response to his false claim about the knighthood, Irvine admitted, "It was like trying to keep up with the Joneses. I was sitting in a bar one night and that came out. It was stupid." Reporters also unpacked the other falsehoods on Irvine's resume. He never had a castle, he only helped pick the fruit used in Princess Diana's wedding cake, and he didn't cook for 4 presidents so much as he prepared food for the United States Navy at the White House. Irvine lost his job as Dinner Impossible host, although he was eventually reinstated. Food Network had a big hit in the late 2000s with Down Home with the Neelys, in which husband and wife duo Pat and Gina Neely unlocked the secrets of traditional Southern cuisine. They taped it from their own kitchen in Tennessee and took plenty of spontaneous breaks to hug and kiss each other. Considering their casual warmth and open affection, it was a huge shock when they announced in 2014 that they were divorcing after 20 years of marriage. As they explained in a statement, "Moving forward, our focus will be on our individual brands and we are optimistic about our respective future." 2 years later, Gina Neely revealed details from her marriage that cast the show in a new, sad light. As she explained during an appearance on OWN's Where Are They Now, "We went to therapy 12 times. I tried to leave 5 times and I just didn't have the strength, but the 5th time I held on to that.
And I knew I wasn't happy."
Nevertheless, Pat Neely was surprised by his wife leaving. Ultimately, their divorce proceedings took just 6 hours to complete.
I never wanted to do that show. I never wanted to live my life quite out loud like that.
Anne Burrell hasn't exactly been demure during the hundreds of hours she spent on the Food Network. Instead, she's brought a frank and boisterous energy to such shows as Secrets of a Restaurant Chef, The Worst Cooks in America, and Chef Wanted. But in 2009, she ran into a bit of trouble as Centro Vinoteca, the New York restaurant where she'd worked as an executive chef, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. In the aftermath, restaurant industry blogger Abby Diaz reported that a group of former Centro Vinoteca employees sued Burrell, the restaurant, and its owners for discrimination. According to the filing, Burrell allegedly frequently uttered insulting, profane, and off-color language. She also reportedly commented about an employee's body and inappropriately inquired about another employee's love life. After entering complaints against Burrell, the plaintiffs also claimed that they were fired in retaliation. The case never went to trial, but the allegations certainly did no favors to Burrell's reputation. On Good Eats, Alton Brown explores the science of food with comedy bits and experiments, but his whimsical nature hasn't prevented him from getting into trouble. In 2020, food writer Allison Robicelli tweeted about how in one of his books, Brown stated his enduring love of the frugal gourmet, written by PBS food personality Jeff Smith, who was accused of multiple acts of assault. As Brown wrote, "I don't care what he does or did in his personal life." Social media backlash followed as Twitter users uncovered a blog post recounting a 2011 event in Iowa where Brown held up a cookbook about the South and reportedly said, "It's got a few things in it that might be kind of foreign and exotic to you Iowans." He then reportedly pointed to a picture of a black man and said, "Look, a real live Negro." Brown was met with silence, which was also the response when he singled out a child in the audience for having 2 parents of the same sex. He then reportedly said, "Man, if that guy next to you is your other daddy, I'm in the wrong state." All this went down in the middle of another social media snafu as Brown jokingly tweeted on election night, "Do you think the camp uniforms will be striped like the ones at Auschwitz, or will plaid be in vogue?" He later deleted that tweet and apologized for making light of the Holocaust. No-nonsense New York chef Bobby Flay has been the virtual face of the Food Network for more than 20 years. He's headlined a long list of shows for the channel, including Iron Chef and Beat Bobby Flay. On many of these series, Flay occasionally allows viewers a glimpse into his personal life, which accounts for the frequent guest star appearances of his former wife, Law & Order Special Victims Unit actor Stephanie March. Flay and March's seemingly stable marriage fell apart in 2015 when Flay filed for divorce after their relationship had, quote, broken down irretrievably, as he wrote in legal documents obtained by TMZ. But the true impetus for the split may have been infidelity on Flay's part. As Page Six reported, around Thanksgiving 2014, March learned that Flay had been secretly meeting up for 3 years with Elise Terrell, a hostess at one of his restaurants, who then became his personal assistant. While the divorce and other legal issues were argued in court, Flay became the first celebrity chef to be honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. During his acceptance speech, an airplane flew overhead with a banner reading, "Cheater."
Originally, we were told Bobby Flay would be speaking to the media, but abruptly, we were just informed that he would not be doing any interviews.
Mario Batali was one of the earliest stars on the Food Network. After establishing the beginnings of a restaurant empire, he started hosting the Italian cooking show Molto Mario in 1996. He parted ways with the network in 2007, save for the occasional Iron Chef appearance. Then, in 2017, the channel produced a revival of Molto Mario. But these episodes never aired, and Batali also lost his job as co-host of the ABC daytime talk show The Chew. Those decisions came in the wake of an exposé published by Eater, in which 4 women accused Batali of inappropriate touching and groping in incidents at his restaurants that stretched back more than 20 years.
It felt like a situation that I was responsible for getting myself out of as quickly as possible.
Batali apologized for his behavior via his email newsletter, explaining, "I have made many mistakes and I am so sorry that I have disappointed my friends, my family, my fans, and my team. My behavior was wrong and there are no excuses. I take full responsibility." Then he included a postscript with a recipe for pizza dough cinnamon rolls that many considered to be tone deaf. And those events reportedly weren't the only time that Batali behaved improperly at his restaurants. In 2012, he and his business partners settled a lawsuit in which they paid out $5.25 million after being accused of tip skimming by former employees. The long-running Food Network series The Worst Cooks in America offers a funny and roundabout presentation of food prep instruction. It brings in admittedly bad at cooking recruits for a kitchen-based boot camp where they compete in a season's worth of challenges to win money and improve their skills to the point that they can prepare a restaurant-quality meal. In August 2020, South Carolina-based cook Ariel Robinson was declared the victor of the 20th season, which netted her a bunch of kitchen gadgets and $25,000. But as her story demonstrates, there are worse things a person can be than an inept cook. 6 months after achieving reality show fame, Robinson and her husband Jerry were arrested and charged with homicide by child abuse. 3-year-old foster child Victoria Smith died while in the Robinsons' care, with Jerry alleging that Ariel would frequently physically abuse the child, aligning with a coroner's assessment that Smith died of blunt force injuries. Robinson claimed that the child died after overingestion of water. In response to the tragedy, Food Network pulled Robinson's entire season of The Worst Cooks in America from Hulu, YouTube, and Discovery Plus.
VH1 was originally supposed to be MTV for older people. The channel once played all the slightly adult contemporary videos, but then it eventually fell into a pattern of broadcasting reality TV and never went back. And VH1 has been diving into scandals ever since. Here are some of the biggest in the network's history. VH1 followed the standard Bachelor formula with Megan Wants a Millionaire, with the caveat that the male contestants had to have the bank account to qualify. People reported that only 3 episodes of the series had aired when it suddenly got pulled from the schedule for the disturbing reason that one of the featured suitors had just killed his wife. Ryan Jenkins was single when he participated in the dating show, but almost immediately after he met Jasmine Fiore and married her just 2 days later. Jenkins, quote, slowly lost his grip on reality and killed his wife on August 15, 2009, strangling her and stuffing her body in a suitcase, then in the garbage. He removed Fiore's fingers and teeth, according to Variety, to make identification difficult. Jenkins fled to Canada and hanged himself before he could be apprehended. VH1 liked Jenkins so much they had cast him on I Love Money 3, which had yet to air. That also ended up being canceled. VH1 got some heat for missing the fact he had an assault charge on his record. Other contestants said they had extensive background checks, so it's not clear how the network missed it. VH1's tattoo-focused reality series Black Ink Crew got too out of hand for one cast member in 2012. Alexandra Estevez filed a $3 million lawsuit against VH1's parent company, alleging one of her co-workers had given her a drink that had been drugged. Estevez said despite only having 2 drinks, she blanked out shortly after that. She was also angry the edited footage made her look like a liar. The judge threw out the suit because there wasn't enough evidence it was the producer's fault. But there was more drama to come. A woman from South Carolina sued the tattoo studio in 2015, claiming she was disfigured after getting inked there.
Pussy, it didn't look infected, and it was certainly still sore.
The New York Post says while the lawsuit was still ongoing, the store owner was shown on black ink bragging that they'd won. A lawyer tried to claim he'd been talking about a completely different lawsuit. In 2014, young Berg, a star of Love and Hip Hop Hollywood, found himself on the unemployment line after attacking his co-star and girlfriend Masika Tucker, also known as Masika Kalisha, according to The Hollywood Gossip. The couple were at a hotel in Manhattan when Berg grabbed and punched her in front of witnesses. Berg was charged with criminal obstruction of breathing, although eventually a plea deal kept him out of jail. Less than a month after that case was resolved, Berg was hit with a lawsuit claiming he owed almost $100,000 in back child support. It wasn't the only time a Love and Hip Hop star was accused of attacking a castmate. In 2019, NBC News reported Remy Ma from Love and Hip Hop New York allegedly punched her co-star Brittany Taylor in the face while at a benefit concert. Taylor went to the cops the next day with bruising around her right eye. However, Ma swore that by the time the alleged attack took place, she was home nursing her 4-month-old daughter, so she couldn't have had anything to do with it. In another case in 2018, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta star Tommy Lee was visiting her child's middle school when she allegedly bashed the child's head into a metal locker, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Lee was arrested and ordered to stay away from the child, but didn't, so she got arrested a second time. She found herself facing charges of aggravated assault, child cruelty, battery, aggravated stalking, and disrupting a public school. According to Page 6, she showed up to court at more than twice the legal blood alcohol limit. The scripted series Hit the Floor was about a basketball team and the drama surrounding it, especially the cheerleaders. Stephanie Mosley, a successful backup dancer for artists including Usher, Britney Spears, and Chris Brown, had a part on the show, but as her career flourished, her personal life spiraled. Mosley married rapper Earl Hayes in 2008, according to TMZ, but they separated in 2012 when he accused her of having an affair with singer Trey Songz. The couple eventually got back together, but Hayes couldn't let the alleged infidelity go, with a friend saying he would bring up Songz all the time. Hayes also started accusing his wife of having affairs with multiple other famous men. One night, while the rapper was FaceTiming with boxer Floyd Mayweather, Hayes shot Mosley and then turned the gun on himself. Neighbors called the cops, and a SWAT team busted down the door. People reported the network released a statement saying, "We are incredibly saddened to hear the news of the passing of Stephanie Mosley. VH1 and the entire Hit the Floor family send our thoughts and condolences to her family and friends at this difficult time." Production of the show continued for a few years after Mosley's death. In 2012, Chad Johnson, who played part of his NFL career with the last name Ocho Cinco, married Evelyn Lozada, a cast member of VH1's Basketball Wives. Johnson was signed to the Miami Dolphins and filming his own VH1 reality show, Ev and Ocho. But only a month after the couple got married, Lozada found a receipt for condoms in Johnson's car, according to NFL.com. This led to an argument, and Johnson headbutted his wife. She ended up at the hospital, and he ended up in jail. Deadline reported the network released a statement saying, "Due to the unfortunate events over the weekend and the seriousness of the allegations, VH1 is pulling the series Ev and Ocho from its schedule and has no current plans of airing it." The couple divorced a month later, just 67 days after getting married. Johnson was also cut from the Dolphins. The winner of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 10, Aquaria, co-hosted the live stream of the Season 11 casting special. In the live chat accompanying it, fans were free to express their thoughts, and Aquaria was quick to point out how unacceptable some of them were. According to Digital Spy, in a tweet after the show, she said the chat indicated the fans of the show are extremely racist. In 2018, Billboard reported former contestant Bob the Drag Queen posted a tweet that went viral showing that, as of then, not a single black queen from the show other than RuPaul had 1 million followers on the social network, while lots of the white queens did. Bob added, "It's not the show, it's the fandom." In 2010, former teen idol Leif Garrett agreed to be on Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew's fourth season. He was looking for help with his heroin addiction, but had already managed to achieve brief sobriety on his own. According to Billboard, he informed producers he was clean, but they told him that they, quote, really had to get footage of him using. He said he was talked into using heroin again in order to provide the footage they wanted. A VH1 vice president denied all that. What they can't deny, though, was how many participants on the show went on to early deaths. Actor Jeff Conaway died of a painkiller overdose 3 years after Dr. Drew Pinsky tried to help him. Joey Kovar died of opiate intoxication 2 years after appearing on the show. Rehab alum Mindy McCready killed herself in 2013.
And the 37-year-old was the fifth participant from the reality TV series Celebrity Rehab to die, and the third from her season alone.
Dr. Drew swore all these deaths were not his or the show's fault. Singer Richard Marx compared Drew to Dr. Kevorkian. Some said Celebrity Rehab exploited vulnerable people for entertainment. Dr. Drew was angry about the accusations, but thankfully ended the show that year.
For millions of fans, HGTV offers the greatest lineup of bingeable home design and real estate-focused reality programming. But while the network's hosts, crafters, and designers are celebrities in their own right, they often find themselves embroiled in salacious scandals. Here are some of the biggest controversies ever faced by the sunny hosts of HGTV. Ellen DeGeneres isn't just a daytime talk show host and stand-up comedian. With her wife, actor Portia de Rossi, DeGeneres has bought and sold more than 20 homes and properties, according to Architectural Digest, and she also published a book about interior design. With all that experience in her back pocket, DeGeneres then joined HGTV in 2015 with Ellen's Design Challenge, a reality competition show like Project Runway or Top Chef, but focused on furniture crafting and flawless design. But the first season of the series ended with one of the most shocking twists in reality TV. Contestant Tim McClellan was declared the winner, earning a $100,000 prize for designing a wooden desk in the Ultimate Challenge. But according to the Washington Post, a week after the finale taped, producers learned that established designer Simon Schacht had previously created a desk nearly identical to the one McClellan claimed as his own. McClellan was immediately disqualified, and his victory and prize money went to runner-up Katie Stout.
The solution for us is to start all over again.
DeGeneres invited McClellan onto her talk show to explain his side of the story. He said, "In recollection, I've never seen his piece. With that said, the similarities of the two pieces are quite compelling, and I understand the decision made and accept it." HGTV's long-running series Love It or List It makes a life crossroads into a game. Should you move to a new home or renovate your current one and possibly later sell it? In 2015, according to the Miami Herald, realtor David Vizentine and designer Hillary Farr brought the whole Love It or List It operation to Raleigh, North Carolina for Dina Murphy and Timothy Sullivan.
And are you going to love it?
Or are you going to list it? Well, we've decided to
list it.
It's fair to say that Murphy and Sullivan did not love the work performed by the show. In 2016, the couple filed suit against production company Big Coat TV, alleging breach of contract and unfair trade practices over what they felt was extremely subpar renovation work. The pair were required to give Big Coat TV $140,000 and to use a local contractor they didn't like and who had poor customer ratings. And then Big Coat didn't even pay all of that money to the contractor, nor did it use a licensed architect. The result was a, quote, irreparably damaged floor, low-quality carpet installation, and multiple surfaces that were left unpainted. Murphy and Sullivan contend that they were essentially duped into paying for the production of an episode of the series instead of their actual home. Drew and Jonathan Scott, the identical twin house rehabbers and flippers who bill themselves as the Property Brothers, are the flagship personalities of HGTV. Since 2011, they've been all over the network, with shows like Property Brothers Forever Home, Buying and Selling, and Brother vs. Brother. The Scotts maintain a wholesome, warm image, and HGTV has reaped the profits from doing business with the duo. But both the twins and the network alike were dealt a blow when Jonathan Scott got into a seemingly uncharacteristic bar fight in North Dakota. According to USA Today, the Scotts arrived in Fargo to speak at a 2016 design conference, and late one night, Jonathan and hit a local bar called Dempsey's Public House. At 2 a.m., staff attempted to close, which agitated Scott. According to TMZ, things escalated to the point where a bouncer placed Scott in a headlock, claiming to have not done anything wrong and to have simply gotten caught up in a fight already in progress. Scott called 911 and reported the bouncer for assault. Prosecutors never charged Scott with a crime, citing a lack of evidence. Married home reno team Chip and Joanna Gaines are HGTV darlings. The Fixer-Upper stars are so valuable to the network that they got their own spin-off channel, the Magnolia Network, named after their lucrative home decor business and brand. Married since 2003, the Gaines are a tight-knit family-first couple who balance their many professional endeavors with the rearing of 5 children. They're also a deeply religious duo, and they've openly discussed their faith on a number of occasions, including Oprah Winfrey's Super Soul Sunday, and at their church, Antioch Community Church, a non-denominational Christian congregation in Waco, Texas.
I was made for a reason, and I need to let whatever God has created me for, that needs to be known.
But in a 2016 report, BuzzFeed dug into the church's firm stance against same-sex marriage and promotion of conversion therapy, which the Human Rights Campaign has called a, quote, dangerous practice. Also, as of 2016, no same-sex couple had ever appeared on Fixer-Upper. Representatives of the Gaines company did not respond to the story, but HGTV did, saying in a statement, "We don't discriminate against members of the LGBT community in any of our shows. HGTV is proud to have a crystal clear, consistent record of including people from all walks of life in its series." Reality TV has been around long enough that the general public has at least some sense that shows in the genre are carefully edited, staged, or juiced to maximize entertainment. That being said, HGTV's House Hunters was singled out in 2012 for a wrongdoing that would make it one of the most non-real reality shows on the air.
I don't think there's any way that the show could actually follow someone because real house hunts take months.
Former House Hunters participant Bobby Jensen wrote about her experience on the show for the blog Hooked on Houses. Jensen and her family were in the market for a larger house and planned on turning their present home into a rental property. But producers said their story wasn't exciting enough, so they instead pushed the idea that the family just needed a bigger home. Then, Jensen blew up the whole concept of the show, which purports to follow a family as they look for a new home. According to Jensen, the couple had already signed the papers on a new house before their episode ever started production. She added, "When they decided to film our episode, we had to scramble to find houses to tour and pretend we were considering." Apparently, the losing homes the Jensens rejected were just the recently cleaned actual houses of their friends. As the hosts of the HGTV juggernaut house-flipping show Flip or Flop, former real estate agents and married couple Tarek and Christina El Moussa had a lot of happily ever afters when it came to properties. But in real life, their seemingly picture-perfect marriage and carefully calibrated image were erased after a frightening blow-up.
I felt like I was drowning, and I was just trying to stay above water, like just doing whatever I could to just get through the day.
In 2016, according to TMZ, police in Orange County, California answered a call regarding a man holding a gun at the El Moussa home, sending a helicopter and 11 deputies to defuse the situation. According to witnesses, Tarek had taken a gun from the house, bolted away, and ran down a hiking trail while Christina emerged from the house, visibly trembling and sobbing. Authorities found Tarek and he willingly disarmed, although police later seized 5 guns from the home. In December 2016, the El Moussas announced their separation after 7 years of marriage. They said in a statement to People, "Like many couples, we have had challenges. We will continue to work through this process civilly and cooperatively, and plan to continue our professional life together." When they were still together, personally and professionally, Tarek and Christina El Moussa's Flip or Flop was so popular, and their success so seemingly attainable, that countless viewers figured they could also find financial independence by buying, renovating, and reselling houses at a huge profit too. The El Moussas encouraged that wealth mindset, holding a series of seminars called Success Path, according to In Touch.
I want to do something super cool, something unique, leave a legacy, and just live a life that when I was a kid, I watched other people on TV live.
led to believe that flipping houses was a relatively easy way to make money. Ohio resident Catherine Brockfield paid nearly $2,000 to attend a seminar, but after alleging that the class was little more than a scam, she asked for but did not receive her money back, leading her to file a complaint to the state's attorney general. And a similar story went down in other states. In Florida, Wendy Sisk contacted authorities after she says she wasted $80,000 on courses. While in Iowa, Lori Ingersoll got her attorney general involved and got back almost all of the $42,000 she sunk into Success Path after she filed a scam complaint and authorities discovered that the El Musa's program violated the law. One part of Chip and Joanna Gaines' portfolio of projects is the Magnolia Market at the Silos in Waco, Texas, a large upscale complex that includes shopping, a garden, and a cafe. It's an effective way for Gaines fans to get a taste of the Stars brand, but it was also the source of a squabble that didn't exactly cast the duo in the best light. In 2016, according to the Waco Tribune, Darren Farmer, a manager of Head Properties, filed a lawsuit against the Magnolia complex and Chip Gaines specifically. Farmer sought damages of $200,000 to $1 million over a gate installed by Gaines that blocks access to the adjacent property he controls. While Farmer bought his piece of land earlier in 2016, the previous owner had worked out a lease agreement with Gaines so that Magnolia employees and customers could park there. The lease expired, renewal talks between Farmer and Gaines fell apart, and so Gaines put up the gate. Farmer claimed, "Chip is just trying to strong-arm me because he doesn't want to pay what I am asking for that lot." A judge dismissed the lawsuit in 2017, according to KWTX, when the Gaines simply bought Farmer's lot. Designer carpenter Carter Osterhaus entered the fray in 2004 with TLC's hit Trading Spaces, and then landed his own show on HGTV 3 years later with Carter Can. But in 2017, after he'd moved on to other projects, Osterhaus was accused of assault by a former colleague who had worked on Carter Can. Makeup artist Kaylee Kaminsky told The Hollywood Reporter that in 2008, Osterhaus repeatedly demanded she perform an intimate act on him, which she did after he threatened to fire her. Then, Kaminsky alleged, Osterhaus forced or coerced her into repeating the act 10 to 15 times. In response, Osterhaus called the allegations, quote, upsetting, and admitted he had been in an intimate relationship with Kaminsky, but said it was a consensual arrangement. A producer on Carter Can told The Hollywood Reporter, "It didn't raise any flags, so I don't think we suggested an intervention. It didn't seem like it was abusive." Osterhaus continued to work for HGTV in several capacities. As of 2021, Windy City Rehab has aired 2 seasons worth of home renovation projects. Interior designer Allison Victoria finds old, broken-down fixer-uppers in the Chicago area and then makes them modern and livable. She was assisted by Donovan Eckhart, a contractor who would supervise and manage the construction elements of each project. Windy City Rehab will continue production according to deadline, but without Eckhart. His time on the show culminated in multiple messy lawsuits for HGTV. According to People, Victoria and Eckhart were co-defendants in a case filed in 2020 by a pair of Chicago-area homeowners, accusing the Windy City Rehab team of shoddy construction that led to water damage, cracked columns, and other problems that required more than $100,000 worth of repairs. Also in 2020, 2 different homeowners filed a lawsuit against the show and its stars for leaving several problems with its renovation, such as water drainage issues, leaks, and a faulty roof.
Everything goes out the window.
In 2021, Eckhart moved from defendant to plaintiff when he sued Windy City Rehab producer Big Table Media and HGTV parent company Discovery Inc. for $2.2 million, citing, quote, defamation and intentional infliction of emotional stress, according to Deadline. Eckhart alleged that his show was scripted and carefully constructed to make him seem like the villain, as well as the face of many of those bad business allegations.
Seinfeld ushered in a new era of sophisticated TV comedy, while also making its primary cast members extremely wealthy. But with that success came reports of misbehavior, bad decisions, and controversial actions. Here are the most scandalous things the cast of Seinfeld ever did. In the fall of 2007, Jessica Seinfeld, wife of Jerry Seinfeld and mother of 3 kids with the comedian, published Deceptively Delicious: Simple Secrets to Get Your Kids Eating Good Food. It was a cookbook with a powerful angle. Her numerous recipes for child-friendly fare packed extra vitamins and nutrition because they all secretly contained flavor-masked fruit and vegetable purees. The book shot to the top of the New York Times bestseller list, but in January 2008, Jessica was targeted in a lawsuit from another cookbook author, Missy Chase Lapine, who alleged that Deceptively Delicious, quote, brazenly plagiarized from her similarly named vegetable smuggling cookbook, The Sneaky Chef. Jerry got himself involved in the affair when he appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman and teased Lapine and her filing, earning himself charges of defamation from the Sneaky Chef author. However, both Seinfelds were eventually cleared of wrongdoing. In 2010, the Second U.S. Circuit Courts of Appeals in New York ruled in Jessica's favor, noting that stockpiling vegetable purees for covert use in children's food is an idea that cannot be copyrighted. Meanwhile, the defamation suit was thrown out of court after a judge ruled that no reasonable viewer of Letterman's show would have believed that Seinfeld was conveying actual facts about Lapine during his appearance. After his time on Seinfeld ended, Michael Richards put character acting on hold for a while in order to return to stand-up comedy, which he'd explored with some moderate success back in the 1970s. In November 2006, Richards booked a plum gig to perform at the Laugh Factory in West Hollywood, one of the most famous and influential comedy clubs in the country. Now, there are comedians bombing on stage, and then there's what Richards did on the night in question. He essentially blew up his career in just a few minutes. Kyle Doss, an African-American man, was in attendance that night, and he told TMZ that he, quote, playfully heckled Richards during his comedy routine, rather than ignore or gently tease Doss back. Richards came undone, unleashing a stream of profane, racially charged, and racial epithet-laced vitriol. To paraphrase, Richards told Doss that in another era of history, he could have brutally attacked the man for speaking out of turn. Richards then used the N-word 5 times in under 3 minutes, all of it caught on video. Richards later apologized on The Late Show with David Letterman. However, the professional damage was done. Since the incident, Richards has acted on 5 occasions, including Jerry Seinfeld's Bee Movie and as himself on Larry David's Curb Your Enthusiasm. In May 1993, Jerry Seinfeld was out and about in New York City's Central Park when a young woman caught his eye. Seinfeld subsequently asked for her phone number. The young woman, whom the 38-year-old comedian and sitcom star found so attractive, was 17-year-old Shoshana Lonstein. When grilled by radio host Howard Stern about the budding relationship with someone 21 years his junior, Seinfeld told the host, "This is the only girl I ever went out with who was that young. I wasn't dating her, we just went to a restaurant, and that was it." That may be true, but the relationship quickly became serious. Later, in 1993, Seinfeld made trips to visit Lonstein at George Washington University, and Lonstein took frequent weekend trips to Los Angeles, where Seinfeld lived at the time. Lonstein told Details that she transferred to UCLA to be closer to Seinfeld, but that they finally split up in 1997. According to Lonstein, she, quote, wanted to run around and play, while Seinfeld was busy all the time making his TV show. In late 1999, 45-year-old Jerry Seinfeld married 28-year-old Jessica Sklar, a Tommy Hilfiger publicist he met in August 1998 after noticing her in a Reebok Sports Club gym on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Sklar was in a bit of a complicated situation, and the resultant and scandalous love triangle enthralled New York gossip column writers. Sklar was already married when she met Seinfeld, and a newlywed at that. She'd gotten hitched to prominent theater producer Eric Nederlander just 2 months previously, but that relationship was already on the rocks before Sklar went ahead with the wedding. Weeks before she met Seinfeld, she'd started to move out of the apartment she shared with Nederlander. Nevertheless, it wasn't a good look for Seinfeld, who was painted in the press as a celebrity swooping in and stealing a woman away from a less famous man. As Nederlander later claimed to Page Six, "I was manipulated, misled, and completely caught off guard by Jessica's infidelity. Jerry and Jessica have no respect for decent values. They deserve each other. I'm going on with my life." Years after Michael Richards' obscene rant, Jerry Seinfeld came under fire for what could be called dismissive comments about race and gender in comedy, a world in which he's a giant and influential figure. In a 2014 appearance on CBS This Morning, Seinfeld was asked about the criticism that his streaming talk show, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, featured a preponderance of white comedians. The comedian snapped back and said that he did not like the question. Seinfeld then went on to say, "People think comedy is the census or something. It's got to represent the actual pie chart of America. Who cares? Funny is the world that I live in. You're funny? I'm interested." Seinfeld's comments were later criticized by a number of major publications, ranging from Time to The Independent. But in 2015, he doubled down on his remarks. On the radio show The Herd, he recalled an exchange with his teenage daughter, in which she labeled something as sexist. He went on to claim, "They just want to use these words. That's racist. That's sexist. That's prejudice. They don't know what they're talking about." The English language is a constantly changing thing. Phrases that might have been socially acceptable at one time may become offensive as the general public grows more sensitive and socially conscientious. Take, for example, the word gay. Today, it's an innocuous word interchangeable with homosexual. Back in the 80s, according to NPR, it also meant homosexual. But because LGBTQ+ people weren't widely accepted, gay also meant very bad or lame, or not manly enough. And in 2012, ex-Seinfeld star Jason Alexander used gay in that fashion. In an interview on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, host and guest discussed the sport of cricket. Alexander told Ferguson, "You know how I know it's really kind of a gay game? It's the pitch. It's not like a manly baseball pitch. It's a queer British gay pitch." In the wake of criticism and backlash, Alexander apologized, writing in a statement, "I should know better. My daily life is filled with gay men and women, both socially and professionally. I am profoundly aware of the challenges these friends of mine face, and I have openly advocated on their behalf. So I can only apologize, and I do." It's always a little embarrassing to get fired from a job, regardless of the circumstances or even the position. It happens to the best and the worst of us, and in 1979, it happened to Jerry Seinfeld. It's even more wince-inducing 40 years after the fact, because of the workplace that callously terminated Seinfeld years before he'd co-create and star in one of the most popular sitcoms of all time. The comedian-actor was unceremoniously dismissed from his role on the broad and silly ABC comedy series Benson, a spin-off of the provocative soap in which smart aleck butler Benson goes on to perform the same job for a governor. In 3 1980 episodes, Seinfeld played Frankie, a courier who fancied himself a stand-up comedian who would launch into his routines at inopportune times. Per the New York Times, Seinfeld and the show's producers couldn't get on the same page about how Frankie should be played. They ultimately agreed to disagree, and the Benson producers got rid of Seinfeld. But as Seinfeld claimed in a 2006 interview with the New York Post, the producers didn't inform him that he was fired until after he showed up for rehearsal. Understandably, Seinfeld was upset, telling the New York Post, "That doesn't happen in stand-up. Once you get to a certain level, they don't make you go back to the beginning." The traumatic experience of getting fired led Seinfeld to put all his effort into his comedy career. According to the Wall Street Journal, Seinfeld co-creator Larry David wrote the show with a thesis statement in mind: no hugging, no learning. That made Seinfeld a lot darker and more brutally funny than most other sitcoms of the 1990s, such as moral-enriched fare like Growing Pains and Full House. But the show reached new depths in 1996 when it killed off a major character. Susan Ross, played by Heidi Swedenborg, was George Costanza's fiancée, even though he didn't seem to like her all that much. However, George was off the hook of marriage and a single guy again when Susan died after ingesting fatal amounts of glue by licking the inexpensive wedding invitations that George had selected. The real reason Susan died? Several Seinfeld big shots didn't want to work with Swedenborg anymore. In 2015, Jason Alexander told Howard Stern, "Her instincts for doing a scene where the comedy was, and mine, were always misfiring." Alexander revealed that he confided his frustrations to co-star Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who went on to tell him that she too had a hard time adapting to Swedenborg's acting style. When David heard all the negative chatter about Swedenborg, namely that the main cast found her difficult to work with, he got rid of her by getting rid of Susan. For the most part, Julia Louis-Dreyfus's history is squeaky clean. However, the winner of a whopping 8 acting Emmy Awards and Veep star did endure some minor controversy in 2014 over a Rolling Stone cover that featured a pretty major faux pas. In promoting Veep, a comedy about government and politics, Dreyfus appeared in a tasteful pose, with the U.S. Constitution seemingly tattooed on her bare back. The problem had less to do with Louis Dreyfus appearing in the buff and more to do with a glaring error that would have most embarrassed the actor's junior high civics teacher. Her back tattoo featured the distinctively large signature of early American politician John Hancock. However, Hancock didn't sign the Constitution. Rather, his huge name appears at the bottom of the Declaration of Independence. Louis Dreyfus handled the very small scandal with grace and humor, tweeting, "In my defense, I was in a drunken stupor." Later, the actor posted a doctored image of herself as a baby bearing the John Hancock signature and quipped, "John Hancock not part of tattoo, it is a birthmark." Seinfeld was such a popular and successful show that it was a hard act to follow for its main cast members. But despite raking in a ton of money and accolades from their 9 seasons on Seinfeld, actors Jerry Seinfeld, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Michael Richards, and Jason Alexander all wanted to continue appearing in things, and TV networks were eager to greenlight projects starring such beloved stars. The only problem? Audiences didn't seem to care about any of those post-Seinfeld shows starring Seinfeld stars. Over the years, the embarrassing notion that the performers were under some kind of Seinfeld curse persisted. Such was the abysmal failure of their 2000s TV projects. For example, The Michael Richards Show and Alexander's Bob Patterson each were canceled with fewer than 10 episodes airing. Louis Dreyfus's Watching Ellie made it 17 installments, and Seinfeld's bickering couples game show, The Marriage Ref, faded away after 2 short seasons. Thankfully, the unofficial curse was unofficially broken when Louis Dreyfus took on the title role in HBO's Veep, a comedy that won the Emmy for Outstanding Comedy Series 3 times in its 7-season run.
Bravo sure has a knack for eliciting drama out of gorgeously dressed, impossibly rich middle-aged women, but the Real Housewives aren't the only source of trouble on the reality show-driven network. Stay tuned for the biggest scandals to ever hit Bravo. Teresa Giudice went from being a star on the Real Housewives of New Jersey to a Real Housewife of the Penitentiary. The Bravo starlet and her husband, Juicy Joe Giudice, were both slapped with prison time after an utterly scandalous scheme. According to People magazine, the couple was charged with a 39-count indictment with making false statements on loan applications, bankruptcy fraud, as well as conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud in 2013. The magazine also reported that Joe failed to file tax returns between 2004 and 2008. According to Good Morning America, Teresa pleaded guilty. The Real Housewives spent nearly a year behind bars, which seems like child's play compared to Joe's sentence of 41 months. While he was released from federal prison in March 2019, Joe was immediately transferred to an immigration detainee facility to wait and see if he'd be deported back to his native Italy. Teresa revealed to ABC News that she blames her husband for the time she lost behind bars, saying,
I don't feel like I should have, gone away. But listen, I took my punishment. I did what I had to do.
Bravo once allowed a housewife to appear in a reunion special even after she threatened her co-star with a shard of broken glass, so Thomas Ravenel allegedly being banned from Southern Charm's Season 5 reunion must mean the reality star messed up big time. According to People, Ravenel was charged with assault and battery in the 2nd degree after being accused of sexually assaulting his children's nanny. The woman named Dawn claimed Ravenel trapped her in the master bedroom, dropped his pants, blocked the door, and proceeded to rip her clothes off before she eventually escaped. That accusation emerged after real estate agent Ashley Perkins accused the Southern Charm star of assaulting her mother, Debbie Holloway Perkins, following an October 2015 Tinder date. Ravenel ended up quitting the show and railing on Bravo for having the right to fictionalize his story. People magazine reported that the charges could potentially be used against him in his ongoing custody battle with his ex and Southern Charm co-star, Catherine Dennis. Luann de Lesseps shocked fans of The Real Housewives of New York when a string of unfortunate events led the star back to rehab and forced her to miss the Season 10 reunion. The downward spiral began when de Lesseps announced in August 2017 that she'd be divorcing Tom DiAgostino after 7 months of marriage. Then that December, Page Six reported that the former countess was arrested after reportedly threatening to kill a police officer who tried to remove her and a man from a hotel room that wasn't hers. People magazine reported that the incident resulted in de Lesseps being charged with disorderly intoxication, battery on an officer, resisting arrest with violence, and threatening a public servant. The reality star later apologized for her behavior, claiming she was emotional because it was her first time in Palm Beach since her wedding. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the Real Housewives star sought alcohol treatment following her arrest but relapsed after her ex-husband and children sued her over selling her $8 million home. Co-star Bethany Frankel staged an intervention for the troubled star, who then entered treatment for the second time in a year. De Lesseps revealed to Megyn Kelly,
I can't be like most normal people and have a glass or two of wine. I'm like, I'll drink the whole bottle, and then I'm looking, where can I get another bottle?
Leave it to a Real Housewife to conjure up a rumor so bad it actually gets her fired and causes a full-on scandal. According to TMZ, Phaedra Parks got herself booted from the Real Housewives of Atlanta in 2017 for lying about a cast member conspiring to sexually assault another cast member. Parks reportedly sparked the rumor during filming when she told Portia Williams that Candy Burruss and husband Todd Tucker planned to drug and kidnap Williams, bring her back to their home, and assault her. According to BET, Parks also alleged the couple had a secret dungeon where they took their victims. Williams, who was understandably horrified, kept repeating the rumor throughout season 9 like it was a proven fact. Subsequently, Burruss reportedly threatened to sue Bravo if they aired the clip in which Parks plants the initial lie.
Phaedra, she said I had a sex dungeon. You know, if I had one, I would tell everybody about it because I don't care.
Williams and Burruss have since patched things up. Burruss still does not have a dungeon, though she jokingly said she's open to the idea. The Real Housewives of Atlanta had its own prison scandal when Phaedra Parks' husband, Apollo Nida, landed in the slammer for mail, wire, and bank fraud. According to the Daily Mail, Parks' husband initially faced up to 30 years in prison for identity theft and money laundering of up to $2.3 million. Nida reportedly stole the identities of more than 50 people by setting up a fake debt collection agency to gather personal data, then allegedly used those identities to do things like set up bank accounts to launder money from unclaimed U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development funds. Parks' husband pleaded guilty to charges of fraud and money laundering and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. In a strange twist of Bravo fate, Nida was reportedly transferred to the same facility where Real Housewives of New Jersey husband Joe Giudice was serving a sentence.
Has he ever met Joe Giudice?
No, he hasn't. I'm sure they haven't crossed paths, but I guess they will now.
He and Parks finalized a drawn-out divorce and custody arrangement in 2017, and by that time, the incarcerated Nida was already reportedly engaged to another woman. Jenny Poulos and Jeff Lewis's friendship fueled more than a decade's worth of flipping out episodes, but as it turns out, the home renovator may have actually flipped out on his longtime assistant-turned-executive producer. In 2018, Lewis shocked audiences when he revealed on his SiriusXM radio show that Poulos had allegedly reported him to Bravo for, quote, abuse and victimization. She reportedly claimed that flipping out was a hostile working environment, but following an investigation, Lewis's name was cleared. Lewis revealed, "Her making this claim, it put my entire career in jeopardy. My family, my livelihood, everything. I just lost my job. I'm pretty sure of that. But I need to get in front of the story and I have to tell my side of the story. I'm a dead man walking, but I have to tell my story." The strange part is that it's possible none of this is even true. According to People magazine, Poulos claimed Lewis abruptly fired her from Jeff Lewis Design following, quote, an explosive lunch, and also said that she never filed a wrongful termination or abuse and victimization claim against him.
I never filed a claim. I really worked for him. We were really friends. Heartbroken about how it's all transpired.
Sonja Morgan's riches to rags story absolutely rocked the Real Housewives of New York. The star found herself embroiled in a devastating bankruptcy case following her divorce from J.P. Morgan heir John Morgan. It lasted nearly 5 years, and as fans of the show know, the star's decision to move out of her townhouse was a painful plot point. According to E! News, Sonja filed for Chapter 11 protection in 2010, and in a twist no one saw coming, actor John Travolta was involved. Why? Her production company, Sonja Productions, reportedly took a major hit after she backed a Travolta flick called Fast Flash to Bang Time in partnership with another company called Hannibal Pictures. The film never happened because Morgan allegedly couldn't meet Travolta's demands, and Hannibal Pictures ended up suing her and winning a cool $7 million. In June 2015, Sonja clawed her way out of her massive debt. According to E! News, the star wound up paying about $9 million, significantly less than the $20 million she initially owed. However, she was reportedly sued by her bankruptcy attorney in 2017 for about $350,000. You know the saying, one step forward, 350,000 steps back. Jax Taylor has never had the best track record in the dating department, but longtime fans of Vanderpump Rules were really crossing their fingers that the star had finally closed his wandering eye when he and Brittany Cartwright got together. Unfortunately, 2018 proved that wasn't the case when Taylor found himself embroiled in a cheating scandal so salacious that it remained a major plot point on the show for quite some time. According to Entertainment Tonight, Taylor cheated on longtime girlfriend Cartwright with former waitress Faith Stowers. That's not big news considering Taylor's bad boy reputation for cheating on girlfriends and flirting with Cartwright's friends.
Did I say some things I probably shouldn't have? I maybe danced on that line a little bit, but Brittany doesn't need to know all the details.
However, there was a deeper, more insidious layer to this particular indiscretion. Leaked audio revealed that Taylor was trashing his girlfriend as Stowers post-hookup, reportedly saying he wasn't attracted to Cartwright even after he reportedly persuaded her to get size D breast implants.
Had Brittany heard it yet?
Yeah, Brittany was like this. Why? Literally.
In a Facebook Live interview, Stowers claimed Taylor had been sliding into her DMs for an entire year, and she reportedly only gave him a chance because he claimed to have split with Cartwright. Despite the numerous arguments that erupted on-screen as a result of Taylor's cheating, Cartwright opted to stay with her man, and the pair got engaged in June 2018. Some serious drama played out on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills during its very first seasons when Camille Grammer split from her husband, Frasier star Kelsey Grammer, after she discovered his affair with Kate Walsh, a woman 26 years his junior. Kelsey revealed he had been cheating on Camille for a solid 6 months before they split, reportedly falling for the British flight attendant in 2009 and spending a, quote, magical night with her days later. The actor asked Camille for a divorce in 2010 after a friend supposedly spilled the beans. In an interview with the New York Post, Camille said she believes Kelsey pushed her to do the reality show to keep her preoccupied in California while he was romancing Walsh in New York. The reality star told the publication, "I don't respect what he did to me and my family. I am not happy with the way it went down. When I signed on, I didn't think I would be going through a divorce in the middle of shooting a reality show."
Thank you, Kelsey, for the gift of humiliation for the first season.
Kelsey Grammer and Kate Walsh got married in 2011, and Camille went on to marry David C. Meyer in October 2018. Back when she was known as Beverly Merrill, Real Housewives of New Jersey star Danielle Staub could have doubled as a character in Grand Theft Auto Vice City. According to reports, Staub became embroiled in a botched drug deal that supposedly left Pablo Escobar's cartel wanting her dead. According to exclusive documents obtained by Radar, Staub was working as a sex worker when she started selling drugs with then-boyfriend Daniel Aguilar, an enforcer in the Medellin cartel. During a deal gone wrong, $100,000 worth of cocaine was reportedly stolen, and Aguilar allegedly stuck his own neck out to save Staub's. He was later arrested by the FBI and spent 9 years in prison. The whole thing is almost enough to make you completely forget about Staub's 20 failed engagements.
The Hallmark Channel prides itself on being a cheerful, family-friendly space, free of the drama that stems from more colorful networks. But not everything is as squeaky clean as it might seem on the surface. From dramatic lawsuits to the fight for diversity, these are the biggest scandals to hit the Hallmark Channel. In 2019, actor Lori Loughlin's Hallmark career came to a full stop in the wake of a massive college admissions scandal known as Operation Varsity Blues. Loughlin and her husband, clothing designer Massimo Giannulli, were accused of paying roughly $500,000 in bribes so their 2 daughters could be falsely categorized as crew recruits for the University of Southern California, with the ultimate goal of being admitted into the college. The couple pleaded not guilty, and Loughlin posted a $1 million bond that March.
So many parents watching, I'm sure, are going through this, where they're about to watch a child go off to college.
I think I'm in complete denial.
Yeah.
According to the New York Times, Hallmark parent company Crown Media issued a statement announcing that it would no longer work with Loughlin, who was starring in its hit series, When Calls the Heart. According to Entertainment Weekly, she was subsequently written out of the series and even edited out of season 6 episodes that had already been filmed. Loughlin was later sentenced to 2 months in federal prison and was released in December 2020, with rumors of a return to When Calls the Heart cropping up months later. Home and Family host Mark Steinis was terminated by the Hallmark Channel in May 2018, but he claimed he was fired after speaking out in support of two female producers who had accused executive producer Woody Frazier of harassment. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Mark Steinis claimed that he reported Frazier's alleged verbal abuse and harassment, saying he created a vulgar, demeaning, and hostile work environment, especially for the women. Steinis then claimed that Hallmark did nothing except cut ties with him. That September, he filed a lawsuit against Crown Media for retaliation and wrongful discharge. Hallmark issued a statement that read, "It was a measured, strategic, and difficult decision for Crown Media to make, but it was necessary given that the ratings for the show had declined."
When I started in this business, I was a cameraman working in local news, and I was taught a very valuable lesson, and that is, if it didn't happen on camera, it didn't happen.
According to THR, the former host alleged that the company had reduced his salary and limited his role at the network. In December 2018, Crown Media's motion to dismiss the case was denied by a federal judge, but by January 2020, the case was settled and mutually dismissed by both parties. Mark Steinis isn't the only Home and Family star who allegedly suffered the wrath of the network. Chef Shanti Inohas also filed a wrongful termination and harassment suit against Crown Media, claiming she was fired from the show in December 2017 by allies of executive producer Woody Frazier. According to Variety, the suit alleged, Frazier would touch Shanti's waist, rub her shoulders, and brush up against her legs and buttocks. On several occasions, she says Frazier pinned her against the kitchen counter and once tried to move cake from his mouth into hers. Inohas even claimed that Frazier told her she was going to be his, quote, next wife after his wife died of cancer. When Inohas brought up Frazier's actions to colleagues, they supposedly warned her to keep quiet. Crown Media issued a statement about the scandal which read, "Inohas was terminated for performance issues. We have investigated and there is no merit to her allegations." Variety reported that Frazier was fired before Inohas was let go, but the chef alleged that Frazier stuck around, and so did the issues. The Hallmark Channel has been called out more than once for its lack of diversity, particularly in leading roles. According to Global News, an extra on A Christmas Carousel claimed the company refused to portray interracial couples. Background actor Leslie Harrap was allegedly removed from a scene which involved extras coupling up while watching the lighting of a Christmas tree. Two other sources allegedly witnessed a casting wrangler telling Harrap, "Hallmark has this policy against interracial couple representation in our productions." Crown Media denied the accusations, insisting it does not have any such policy and pledging to investigate the claim. But anonymous sources told Global News, "It's just common knowledge that Hallmark expects people of the same ethnicities to be coupled. We all are scared to rock the boat on this issue because there are so many productions that are happening." The Hallmark Channel is truly a well-oiled machine, but there are concerns about the way the system works. According to the IBT, by the end of 2017, Hallmark will have premiered a combined 86 new movies on two of its networks, Hallmark Channel and Hallmark Movies and Mysteries, the highest total ever. Only 6 of those movies had non-white romantic leads. When it comes to African American and Asian romantic leads in 2017 Hallmark movies, the number is 0. Actors included among those 6 projects were Catherine Ball, who is half Iranian, Julie Gonzalo, who is from Argentina, and married Hispanic stars Carlos and Alexa Penavega. Bill Abbott, president and CEO of Crown Media, promised that Hallmark intended to show change both on-screen and behind the scenes. One of Hallmark's first moves toward diversity came in 2018 with Christmas Everlasting, which featured Black romantic leads and a largely Black cast.
Oh my Christmas! Look who's here!
Meanwhile, according to E!, the 2020 holiday season saw multiple Hallmark movies portray interracial couples. Considering the reports about Hallmark's lack of diversity, Time Standard editor Ruth Scheider reached out directly to the network in 2017 to question why there were no same-sex couples depicted in its Christmas movies. Pam Slay, senior executive for Crown Media, responded saying, "There are no forced values associated with our networks, with the exception that we want to provide a quality viewing experience for every member of the family. We are not an issues-oriented network. Our goal is for every viewer who comes to us to feel happier and better because they watched." Slay also noted that the network had already employed LGBTQ+ actors in Christmas movie roles, but adding to the image problem, some of Hallmark's most popular stars, like Candace Cameron Bure, had previously come under fire for expressing anti-LGBTQ+ views. The actor was blasted in 2015 for siding with Christian bakers who refused to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. She also took some heat in 2017 for wearing a "Not Today, Satan" t-shirt. According to People, that phrase was made popular by Bianca Del Rio, Season 6 winner of RuPaul's Drag Race. Needless to say, Del Rio wasn't pleased, prompting a cyber army of critics to attack Bure. The actor then responded via Instagram, "I'm not homophobic. You sent a bunch of hateful people to my page writing horrible things. I hope next time you'll spread love and kindness, even when you disagree with people. Sending you love and wish you all the best. Truly." In another lawsuit filed against Crown Media, former Home and Family Director Robert Levy claimed he was wrongfully terminated because of his age. In December of 2015, the then 64-year-old filed a suit alleging wrongful termination, age discrimination, and more. And a familiar name was involved in the legal matter: Woody Frazier, who was Levy's boss at the time. According to Patch, Levy's suit claimed Frazier harassed him because of his age. According to the suit, Levy believed he was replaced by someone who was younger, with inferior qualifications. But Levy isn't the only one fueling talk about ageism drama within the network. Christina Ferrar, a former host for Hallmark's Home and Family, said she was let go at age 66. In a post on Facebook, she claimed, "I was replaced with no other explanation other than I was too old, and the powers that be at Hallmark wanted to take the show in another direction." Ferrar further alleged that she and fellow co-host Mark Steinitz were not even given a chance to say goodbye before they were kicked out the door. The Hallmark Channel routinely finds itself embroiled in political debates about the values it depicts. Pointing to standards typically associated with more conservative beliefs, the Los Angeles Times reported in 2017, "Red states love it." Though the channel's programming is politically agnostic, if you highlighted its strongholds in red on a map, it would look a lot like the Electoral College results in the 2016 election. The network has never outwardly expressed a partisan position, but that hasn't shielded it from the fray. A 2017 opinion piece in Slate made these accusations. The films brim with white heterosexuals who exclusively, emphatically, and endlessly bellow "Merry Christmas" to every lumberjack and labradoodle they pass. There are occasional sightings of Christmas sweater-wearing black people, but they exist only to cheer on the dreams of the white leads.
Maybe this wasn't what he thought it would be. No, it's worse than that.
The Washington Post suggested that the Hallmark Channel was, quote, "booming in the age of Trump." But regardless of any media bias, there's no denying it was a hit with fans. According to the outlet, more than 85 million people watched one of Hallmark's channels during November and December 2016. Actor Hilarie Burton, who appeared in several Hallmark Channel movies in the 2010s, jumped on Twitter to reveal that she quit the network after her requests for a more inclusive cast was denied. She posted, "Just going through some old emails from a Hallmark job I was let go from back in January. I had insisted on an LGBTQ character, an interracial couple, and diverse casting. But after the execs gave their notes on the script and none of my requests were honored, I was told, take it or leave it. I left it, and the paycheck." The former One Tree Hill star further alleged that the entire Hallmark culture is riddled with bigotry that stems from the top brass. She added, "I've been loudly cheering for Lifetime all year because they heard my concerns and rallied. You want inclusive Christmas magic? We got it. Love is love."
Faith is a wild card. You never know who to expect.
But she always wins, so.
The actor went on to state that the only reason she was able to walk away from Hallmark was because her husband, Walking Dead actor Jeffrey Dean Morgan, was supporting their family. She said, "He works off, so I have the luxury to choose morals over paying bills." A rep for the channel responded to Burton's claims, telling Fox News, Hilarie Burton was not an employee of Crown Media Family Networks. In 2019, 6 ads from the wedding planning site Zola appeared on the Hallmark Channel, featuring a same-sex couple doing normal wedding-related things, like kissing at the altar. The ads quickly caught the attention of the conservative group, 1 Million Moms, which mounted enough pressure that Hallmark removed them. A senior VP for Hallmark stated to the AP, "The debate surrounding these commercials on all sides was distracting from the purpose of our network, which is to provide entertainment value. The Hallmark brand is never going to be divisive, but the removal of the ads turned out to be even more divisive. Stars like Ellen DeGeneres and Queer Eye's Anthony Porowski blasted the decision, which left Hallmark facing a boycott. 2 days after the ads were pulled, the network reversed course and Hallmark CEO Mike Perry issued a public apology, saying via the New York Times, "Our mission is rooted in helping all people connect, celebrate traditions, and be inspired to capture meaningful moments in their lives. Anything that detracts from this purpose is not who we are."
I think I may have a solution.
Hallmark then committed to work with media representation organization GLAAD, but the drama certainly wasn't over. A little over a month after the Zola backlash, Hallmark Channel CEO Bill Abbott resigned in January 2020. And one thing we know for sure is that Abbott's resignation wasn't performance-related. During his 11-year tenure, the network saw exponential growth in both viewership and ad revenue, and launched a second channel, Hallmark Movies and Mysteries, as well as a subscription streaming service, Hallmark Movies Now. In December 2019, the channel's primetime holiday movies averaged 1.7 million viewers. No specific reason was given for Abbott's departure, but the timing doesn't require too much effort in connecting the dots. 7 months later, former TV One CEO Wanya Lucas was chosen as Abbott's replacement, and 2020 saw Hallmark premiere 2 movies centered on same-sex couples, Wedding Every Weekend and The Christmas House. Hallmark CEO Mike Perry said in a statement, "Wanya is a brand builder at her core who shares Hallmark's beliefs and values. She has a deep understanding of the role our brand plays in fulfilling a bigger purpose in people's lives. Our holiday table is bigger and more welcoming than ever."
Since its debut on cable systems in August 1981, MTV has been reflecting, changing, and creating pop culture, tastes, and trends. But while fortune favors the bold, MTV's brash, in-your-face content has also triggered some controversial moments. Here are the biggest scandals to ever hit MTV. Anybody who was anybody in the early 2000s corporate music machine routinely stopped by MTV's Total Request Live. But there was something off about Mariah Carey's spot on the show in July 2001. As host Carson Daly tried to go to commercial, Carey materialized on set, pushing an ice cream cart while dressed in an oversized t-shirt adorned with the word Loverboy, which was the title of her latest single. Daly, who looked pretty surprised by the whole ordeal, mentioned that Carey's appearance was, quote, unannounced. The songstress then said she had a present for the TRL host, her shirt. Carey proceeded to take off her top, revealing a tank top and hot pants to a confused Daly. The singer then bizarrely announced,
You see, every now and then, somebody needs a little therapy.
Yes, I understand that.
And today is that moment for me.
What's wrong?
When the singer announced that the ice cream truck was full of goodies for the studio audience, a seemingly vaguely panicked Daly finally got to cut to commercial. According to ABC News, Carey was subsequently hospitalized for exhaustion. In 2018, she revealed to People magazine that she'd actually been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. In 1999, MTV took a chance on Canadian import The Tom Green Show, centered on the star's surreal and goofy style of confrontational comedy. In the summer of 1999, the market could apparently bear a Tom Green novelty rap song and video, Lonely Swedish, the Bum Bum song. The gist of the music video isn't exactly highbrow. Green names things and rubs his bum bum on them. Of course, Green encouraged fans to vote for the video on MTV's other pop culture phenomenon of the moment, Total Request Live. Before long, his track sailed past TRL's familiar bevy of boy bands, Britney Spears, and rap rock to hit #1 on the countdown. Even though this was a brilliant bit of MTV cross-promotion, the network eventually couldn't abide. In an interview with Joe Rogan, Green revealed the network called them up and asked for a favor.
"We want you to kind of play ball with us here." And we're like, "Well, what's the deal?" They said, "Well, we need you to go on the show on Friday and retire the Bum Bum song and take it off the countdown."
Why did that happen? The following week's episode of TRL had supposedly been taped in advance because host Carson Daly would be out, so the staff allegedly just ranked the videos the way they'd been going, and hadn't accounted for the spoiler effect of Lonely Swedish. Green claimed he played ball and retired the song, thus preserving the alleged TRL fix. Green was truly an early aughts patriot. MTV scored huge in 1993 with Mike Judge's Beavis and Butthead, a crudely animated series about two small-town metalheads who spend their time destroying property and making fun of music videos. In the words of Butthead, the show ruled youth culture for a while, until the troubled Beavis' love of burning stuff almost brought down the whole thing. In October 1993, 5-year-old Austin Messner set his bed on fire with a lighter. The boy and his mother, Darcy Burke, escaped the blaze, but the boy's 2-year-old sister unfortunately died in the incident. Along with the girl's mother, local authorities placed the blame on Beavis and Butthead. specifically Beavis's pyromania. Local fire chief Harold Sigler told the Associated Press, "When you take a child in the formative years and you get these cartoon characters saying it's fun to play with fire, this is going to stick in that kid's mind and it's going to be with him for a long time." MTV swiftly responded, cutting out all references to fire from completed episodes of Beavis and Butthead and banning them from appearing in future installments. It also eliminated the show's 7 p.m. weeknight airings, only showing the cartoon at 10:30 p.m., thereby cutting down the possibility that young, impressionable viewers may be watching. The MTV Video Music Awards is the channel's excuse to put on a huge party celebrating the year's biggest musical acts. Viewers can count on at least one daring and very rock and roll thing going down each year, be it Madonna attempting to make a baby with the stage while singing Like a Virgin in 1984, or Michael Jackson awkwardly kissing his wife Lisa Marie Presley in 1995. But one moment will outlive them all, the one that demonstrated that the VMAs don't have the greatest security detail. At the 2009 ceremony, Taylor Swift won Best Female Video for You Belong With Me over Beyoncé's Single Ladies. Swift took to the stage to deliver her acceptance speech, only to fall victim to the force of nature that is rapper Kanye West. Rather than act like a normal person and post an all-caps Twitter rant declaring his displeasure with the results, the rapper rushed the stage to express himself, declaring, "Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'ma let you finish, but Beyoncé had one of the best videos of all time." West's outburst was met with audible boos, stunned silence from Swift, and Beyoncé later gave the young starlet the chance to finish her acceptance speech when she invited Swift on stage after winning Video of the Year. The rapper indirectly apologized a couple of days later on The Jay Leno Show.
But I need to, after this, take some time off and just analyze how I'm gonna make it through the rest of this life, how I'm gonna improve.
Still, the two superstars have feuded off and on for years. After his behavior at the 2009 Video Music Awards, it's surprising that MTV allowed Kanye West anywhere near the ceremony ever again. But he's a fixture at the show, and in 2016, he hit the stage as a presenter, debuted his video for Fade, and received 2 nominations. The music video for his new song Famous was up for Best Male Video, as well as Video of the Year. West lost in both categories to Calvin Harris and Rihanna's This Is What You Came For and Beyoncé's Formation, respectively. You'd think West would be pleased Beyoncé won a VMA, but not this time. A couple months after the ceremony, West performed in Sacramento, California in a show that ended prematurely, after West engaged in what the Wrap called a manic onstage rant that lasted for 15 minutes. Among his many thoughts, he claimed that the VMAs were rigged and that he knew in advance that Formation beat both Famous and Drake's Hotline Bling. The rapper revealed the powers that be had let him know the results ahead of time so he, quote, wouldn't run on stage. West also dropped another potential bombshell aimed directly at Queen Bee, saying, "Beyoncé, I was hurt because I heard that you said you wouldn't perform unless you won Video of the Year over me and over Hotline Bling. That's a big deal if it's true. Keyword, if." Buck Wild produced almost as many controversies as it did episodes. Something of a rural version of Jersey Shore, Buck Wild followed the lives of some TV-ready young people in West Virginia as they did stuff like drink in the woods, throw a pool party in a dump truck, and hunt squirrels. Before the show debuted, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin said the show plays to ugly, inaccurate stereotypes about the people of West Virginia. The West Virginia Film Office even denied MTV a lucrative tax credit to produce the show in the state because it found the series, quote, significantly derogatory. Nevertheless, MTV aired the series in early 2013. A few days after the season finale aired, police arrested cast member Salwa Amin at a friend's house in West Virginia when, according to TMZ, authorities discovered heroin and unauthorized oxycodone. Charged with 2 counts of drug possession, Amin was arrested again after a court-ordered urine test delivered positive results for morphine and oxycodone. Unfortunately, it only gets worse from here. On April 2, 2013, Buck Wild's Shane Gandy was found dead in his Ford Bronco, stranded in a mud pit in remote West Virginia. The car had reportedly gotten stuck with its tailpipe submerged under mud, leading to a fatal buildup of carbon monoxide in the vehicle. 8 days after Gandy's death, an MTV rep told TMZ that Buck Wild was done. In 2011, Real World Chicago and Road Rules Challenge star Tanya Cooley filed a lawsuit against Bunham Murray Productions, MTV, and other parties on horrifying grounds, alleging that she'd suffered repeated sexual abuse during her time filming Road Rules Challenge, The Ruins in Thailand, including an assault while she was unconscious. MTV's corporate parent Viacom responded to the charges by claiming that Cooley was responsible for the negative outcome she experienced. Viacom's statement read, "Plaintiff failed to avoid the injuries of which she complains. For example, while she was a contestant on The Ruins, plaintiff was frequently intoxicated to an extent far greater than other contestants, rowdy, combative, flirtatious, and on multiple occasions intentionally exposed her bare breasts and genitalia to other contestants." Oof. The parties ultimately settled the case out of court. MTV's programming constantly evolves to attempt to remain in line with the hip young kids. In the early 90s, The Real World depicted disaffected Generation Xers, and in the late 90s, TRL aired a constant stream of boy band videos. The network gives the masses what they wanted. In 2011, the network wanted to show how teens live now with Skins, a sex and drugs-filled soap about precocious high schoolers making salacious and dangerous life choices. It seemed like MTV would have a hit on its hands, in part because Skins was based on a popular British series of the same name. America didn't much care for Skins. MTV launched its most costly ad campaign to date, and it paid off initially. The debut episode landed some of the best ratings for a new show that the network had seen. However, less than half of those 3.26 million viewers liked what they saw enough to tune in for episode 2. MTV faced a far larger problem in that it couldn't keep or attract advertisers for Skins. After the media watchdog group Parents Television Council labeled the show, quote, the most dangerous show for children that we have ever seen, a number of huge companies swore off buying ad space on the series, including Taco Bell, Schick, L'Oreal, and General Motors. After just one season, MTV canceled Skins for good. Millions of Americans were apparently scandalized in February 2004 when they saw part of a woman's breast for part of a second. While performing at the Super Bowl 38 halftime show, Justin Timberlake tore off part of Janet Jackson's clothing, revealing the singer's breast, at least what wasn't covered by a nipple ornament. It became history's most notorious wardrobe malfunction, and because MTV produced that halftime show, the network apologized in a statement saying, the tearing of Janet Jackson's costume was unrehearsed, unplanned, completely unintentional, and was inconsistent with assurances we had about the content of the performance. Then, the apology turned into self-punishment. About a week after the Super Bowl, MTV identified 6 popular music videos that it felt contained content of an edgy or sexual nature and consigned them to late-night play only. An MTV spokesperson told Reuters, we always take into account what the cultural environment is on an ongoing basis. Given the particular sensitivity in the culture right now, we're erring on the side of caution for the immediate future. Among those clips deemed too risque, Britney Spears' Toxic, which features some sexy dancing and skimpy costumes, and Incubus's Megalomaniac, a political screed with a video that features Adolf Hitler.